What's going on? Happy holidays and perhaps Merry Christmas. Welcome to the 12th ever episode of STGeek Podcast with myself, AJ, and with me as always are my dumb co-hosts.
Peter, I'm not dumb.
John, I'm pretty dumb. Yeah, I'm pretty stupid.
At least one of you. That's fair enough. So we have a cram-packed episode as per usual, but today we're going to be doing it a little bit differently because we have two huge movies that came out within the same week of each other. Bumblebee, and I know, right? And Aquaman. And to celebrate, we have a bottle of champagne. So that's
Popping
freaking
bottles.
Awesome. Who brought the champagne, by the way?
Glenn.
Okay, yes, actually in the background, you may not be able to hear them very much, but we have our friends Glenn and Diego who have been referenced many times in this show. Glenn brought us a bottle of champagne, so shout out to Glenn. What's your handle on Twitter so people can say shout out to you? Oh, Random1S, and the number one that is on Twitter.
We had to take the ball gag out of his mouth. We have them both chained in the corner. So
exactly. We'll whoop him every once in a while. If you're a whoosh, then you'll know what's going on. But anyway, yes, we have a double header coming up. But before we get to that, we do have some news we want to go over because we have some new damn trailers that came out, guys. What was the first one you wanted to bring up, John?
The Aladdin one. Let's just get Aladdin over with.
Sure.
It's going to make a lot of money.
A shitload of money.
Disney's going to just take all
Wait,
the
we
money.
talked about the trailer before, didn't we not? It's the new screenshots.
What we just watched was a new trailer.
That's new?
That was a new trailer, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't much.
It wasn't much more, but then again, like Peter said, though, there are screenshots that have been shown.
That show the genie and Aladdin and Princess Jasmine.
Yep, Will Smith in full genie costume, and it looks interesting. I personally don't care for the hair.
He looks like Kazam, just flat out.
Yeah.
He looks like Kazam.
You said it, not me.
There we go.
This terrible with hair.
Tell me I'm wrong. He looks like Kazam
hair?
with a man bun.
Kazam! Mm-hmm. Both genies? Both great, I suppose. But no, I really like to think that Will Smith will bring really great charisma and pizzazz to the character for sure. I mean, obviously you can't do what Robin Williams did, so he's going to do Will Smith as best he can, and Will Smith is good enough for me.
I think he's a good fit.
I think so too. If anyone can do it, I just didn't really care for the costume look for him. Have you seen them, Peter? The shots?
Yeah. Well, I've seen the cover. Is there more?
No, it's just like two stills.
There's like one still of like him crouching down talking with Aladdin. He's got the long ponytail going down the back of his head, which looks a little funky to me. But then before these shots were released to the public, though, there were people at another... I brought it up a few episodes ago. There was an expo where people got to see behind the scenes a new trailer. Mm-hmm. Not this one that we watched either. And it shows the genie in motion. And a lot of people had trouble with his hair and some of the costume. And now I can kind of see why. Maybe I was predisposed to opinions beforehand. But I could say that, I don't really care for the look that much. But again, I think Will Smith will bring the personality for sure.
The look makes me wonder if he's gonna be that way the whole time, and
or
it's
gonna have like a genie form, right?
Like if it's gonna be a Deadpool-esque type thing where he's just kind of like breaking the fourth wall, making modern day references like the genie does in the original, or are they saving a CGI-esque genie for later?
Shoe tongues or what?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Sure,
we'll see. Mm-hmm. Either way, I'm
pulls out
excited.
an iPhone at some point or something, and like tweets his homies across the world. I don't know.
Hashtag Aladdin 2019.
Yep.
Yeah. Never had a friend like me. So there's that. The trailer was pretty fun looking though. Again, the music was great. It's hard to beat.
It's been great.
Yeah, it's been great. But now I guess they're just bringing it to like a modern era kind of sound, very orchestral, even more than it used to be back in the day. Mm-hmm. So I'm pretty excited to see what is going to come. Like you said, John, Disney's going to make freaking
they're gonna take
bank
my
in 2019.
I got a question to ask you guys.
What's up?
What song do you hope is going to carry over? Because you know they're not all going to carry over.
Prince Ali. They got to do Prince Ali.
Prince Ali's pretty dope. Yeah.
I think Prince Ali's. Yeah, that's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
I think the first song,
Arabian Nights.
Not Arabian Nights.
Because they do have that for the trailer.
when he's running from the.
Oh, that's a pretty good one too.
Oh, one jump ahead of the henchman.
Yeah.
That one. I don't know what that one's called, but yes, I know exactly.
It's a great one. Yeah.
That song's pretty awesome.
Which
I'd probably have to say the.
Yeah, you're gonna be a chick, aren't you? Say
what?
It.
No, not the freaking magic. No.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with that song.
No, I mean, I like that song.
I'll sing the girl
all
part.
All three of us on this couch are gonna cry simultaneously when that.
Oh
song
yeah,
happens.
100%.
One
like
single tear.
A baby.
It's the Prince Ali. There's still one moment in that song that makes me laugh every time. It's the part towards the end where there's the guards going, "He's got the monkeys. He's got the monkeys."
Even as a kid, that part tripped me out. I was like, "What the hell were the animators? Their eyes are like brightly wide open."
It cracks me up to this day.
God, that is so random, but I love it. I think actually when I was singing parts of the songs earlier, I got them mixed around as far as the lyrics go. But yes, all awesome songs. What about you, John? Did you say yours?
Yeah, I did. The second song.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Well, anyway, yeah. Good question. Actually, that'll be really exciting. Anything else you guys want to talk about with Aladdin, though?
No,
think
just
that
take
about
my
covers
money.
it.
Yeah, take my money. I'm excited to see what they're going to pull off with it. Next up, we do have Hellboy. Peter, opening thoughts.
I thought it looked great. I was a big fan of the first two, and I like
How do you
what's the
feel?
director's name?
I don't even.
Guillermo del Toro?
Yeah,
the
there you go.
original director.
Yes, the original
He's
director.
not directing this one.
No,
he's not.
I'm a little upset that he's not able to continue his movies.
That it didn't finish.
He did a great job.
It ended with her being pregnant, right?
Yes. Honestly, Ron Perlman was getting pretty damn old for that.
I think he was like in his 60s.
Yeah.
But he was
Early.
such a
He
good
was really
Hellboy,
good,
though.
and those
He
movies-
was
Easy guy for the job.
amazing. Oh
And
my
those movies in
God.
general are really
Personality.
good.
They're
down.
so good.
The special effects are great. The
for a time,
practical effects are great. The
True.
story's fun. The
Before
characters
superheroes
lovable.
were really a thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
It's really good.
Good
but
point.
but this one definitely looks like it's gonna hold its own.
Yeah.
Kind of have a similar tone, but still be its own thing.
I would love to.
So I'm pretty
Pass some
excited for it.
No, for sure. If anything, though, I will say one thing that this movie is doing that the previous Hellboys didn't. They managed to make Hellboy look even less attractive. That's all I have to say. I mean, it's nothing to DK Harbour, the gentleman that's playing Hellboy now. He's a great-looking guy, but the face makeup on this motherfucker
You're not in a big
is
red.
hideous.
You're not in a big red buff man.
Buff men.
Buff
They have
demon
horns.
men, yeah.
Horns, my friend.
I'll never say no, but I.
Don't knock it
But,
till you try it, AJ.
Amen. You're I'll drink to that one real quick.
Oh,
How about you, John?
when I mean, he's red. I guess I'd go for that.
He's red. John 2018. Opinions. Sorry. I just want you to become a professional critic. Like, greatest movie of 2019. Blockbuster hit. A must-see. He's red.
He's right.
They gotta put that in the trailer.
I'm
please.
okay with that. No, it looks good. I'm excited about
Sorry.
it. Is he buffer than the original
He looks
Hellboy?
pretty
I feel
big.
like that chest is huge.
I think so. I mean, clearly,
I mean, DK
it's
Harbour's
gonna
a
be
big guy, though, too.
he is, and he's pretty buff all on his own.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's probably prosthetics, honestly. Same as it was with Ron Perlman. Not that they're not big; they're pretty big dudes, or at least
yeah,
Ron Perlman was at the time.
In their own respect, yeah,
Yeah.
they definitely are big
I
guys.
would
And
not want to fight with them. Yeah.
I've seen like the training videos on YouTube of David K. Harbour actually lifting for this role, and so he was actually
wow.
squatting
Okay.
pretty heavy weight. He's been in training for a long time for this film.
Well, he's kind of out of shape in Stranger Things, right? I feel like
He's got that dad bod
He's
going
got
on.
the dad
Yeah.
bod in that, but I feel like in between seasons he's been working out for it though, because I think that's a part of his role in Stranger Things is that he kind of, he's a big guy, but also to make him part of a more believable member of that town. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of a downtown kind of.
It's a very easygoing town. Not much
Yeah.
happens, so he's a bit more laid
what
back.
happens.
Exactly. Unlike Hellboy, where you're the savior of the world, potentially, so to speak. So there is that. And then another movie that had a big trailer come out recently that I'm kind of looking forward to was Men in Black, starring Chris Hemsworth.
I believe it's called Men in Black International.
You're correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they're going to London in this
Yeah.
one. Yeah. What are you guys' feelings on that one?
I'm whatever about it, to be honest with you. I feel like Men in Black did its thing. I really loved the rumors when they said 21 Jump Street was going to cross over.
I was
Yeah,
really
that
sad
was
that
a
fell
letdown.
through. Yeah.
That would have made money. Because, I mean, I feel like, who's in it? It's Chris Hemsworth.
Tessa Thompson, I believe, is the co-actor.
Yeah, and I feel
Co-star?
like it's going to be a comedy.
Yeah,
It's
it
basically
looks
Thor
more fun.
Ragnarok.
Yeah.
But then again, so is Men in Black 1 and 2 and 3. Those had huge comedic, I guess, moments in them as well.
I never saw the third one.
It was okay.
It was all right.
okay.
Yeah. But I feel like it's going to have the same kind of touch to it because from the trailer, from what I remember, it shows Chris Hemsworth with an older agent.
Yes.
So it undoubted if he's close with them, then he retires, then he needs to get somebody new. I feel like it's going to be the same shit.
Which is why Tessa Thompson's character is saying, like, she's trying to get into the MIB. She's been tracking them down for years. And eventually she found them, and then she's able to kind of schmooze her way into the organization.
I do like how they're going outside of New York. 'Cause,
Sure, yeah.
Again, I haven't
Something
seen the
different.
third, so correct me if I'm wrong, but it's all taking place in New York.
More the same, just in the past. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, which is fine, but in a world where aliens are coexisting with humans in a very secretive way, it's a lot more fun to branch out and see how different places of the world handle such a thing. And I think they really need to do something outside of the box, something that they haven't done, and I think this is exactly that. Yeah. So I'm excited for it.
Not a bad call, actually. Yeah, I agree with that, for sure. All right. Well, is that about it for trailer talk so far?
I believe that was it.
I think so.
Cool. All right. Well, then we will move on to the 2 movies we have to talk about, aka Aquaman and Bumblebee. But before we get started, I just want to let you guys know, as always, if you ever have any topics or questions you want to bring up for future episodes, please feel free to email us at stgeekpod@gmail.com. You can also reach us on Instagram and Twitter as well. Again, that's at STGeekPod. Always happy to hit you up or hit us up and read what you guys have to say for sure. Also, yeah, you have anything, let us know. We also, throughout each episode, if you happen to find little bits of an episode that you think are fun, let us know. You can use the hashtag QuickBit as well on Instagram and Twitter. Let us know what bits, you can time code us as well if you want to find this episode on YouTube also. Let us know what parts of each episode you want us to be able to feature. That way we can make little mini fun bite-sized bits of each episode. Just little highlights, really. It's fun.
Are you making the fans work?
I'm saying,
it sounds like he's putting them to work. If you're gonna listen,
you're already
listening.
listening.
Pay a bit,
Yeah,
right?
you're already listening. Let us know what part you want us to highlight and make an actual fun little video out of. We have like 7 of them at least out there in the world right now. So let us know.
Get to work, guys.
Get to work. Let us know.
It's because AJ knows we're not gonna do it. John and I aren't gonna do it. So
actually, John requested one recently, which
I will reject.
No, not reject it. I have just been too lazy to actually do it.
That sounds like rejection.
That sounds like rejection. Yeah.
I actually think it's a really fun bit, and I already have like visual ideas of what I want it to look like. So don't.
Well, I don't.
Do not fret. That's why I'm gonna make it. You guys suggest
He's not gonna
it.
make
I
it,
will
guys.
make it.
He's not gonna make it.
Give me by next episode. That's all I ask.
You heard him. You all heard him.
We all heard him.
I'm out of school for the semester now. I'm good.
Okay.
I have only big things coming up are Christmas Eve, Christmas. After that, I'm free for a while. Anyway, so we do have Bumblebee we're going to start off with because, again, Bumblebee and Aquaman are the 2 movies we saw this week. Holy crap. I thought they were pretty good movies. Pretty fun. Worth the price of admission at least.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think Bumblebee was all about? How would we start off that movie? And we're going to move from non-spoilers into spoilers eventually. We'll let you guys know when we actually do that. But Peter, you want to start us off?
Sure. There's
a war.
There's a war on Cybertron. Cybertron's kind of turning to shit. It's the Autobots versus the Decepticons.
I was surprised it started off just like that.
I mean, me too. I was expecting a flashback.
Optimus Prime within the first 5 minutes? What the hell?
Yeah, it was pretty
I thought he was going to be more towards the end, but that was a fun little surprise. Not really a big spoiler. Again, it happens within 5 minutes of the film.
And they should.
You see the footage in the
like
trailer.
2 minutes.
In the trailer, you see it. So.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true.
So that happens, and then Optimus Prime sends Bumblebee to Earth to set up a base while everybody just kind of retreats out of Cybertron and regroups.
They all bail, yeah.
Yeah, everybody bails. They say Cybertron is lost, and so he sends Bumblebee to set up a base on Earth and protect the Earth because it's their safe haven. It's going to be their new base.
May I interject real quick? First of all, I just have to say that I thought that scene was pretty badass and well animated.
Oh yeah,
the CGI was.
I love that Optimus Prime was like a total leader. He was fighting off everyone that he could, sends Bumblebee on his way. He just like, I don't know, I kind of geeked out in those moments. Any moment of those movies that has Optimus Prime in it, say what you will about the dorky storylines and some of the ridiculous action in those past movies. But the highlight for me always is that Optimus Prime is just a badass, great, strong leader. Like in the end, he's just like the best guy in the world. Like, I don't know. He just seems like a really.
He's dope.
I mean, he's kind of a murderer in the movies. He's
I'm
kind
fine
of
with that, but
he's kind of a ruthless guy.
Way. But he does what he has to do.
Because they push him, Peter. Because they push him.
I mean, he talks very well and he speaks like he's noble and shit, but he's just a murderer. Like, he will kill anybody who crosses his path.
So he's great at persuading people to follow him, even though he's a murderer.
Yes.
Okay.
That's very real.
He's basically Grindelwald.
Oh wow, if you think about it, I guess so. Just a little less Johnny Depp going on, but yeah, I feel you.
Which is always good.
That's fine.
A little less bleach blonde ass hair, platinum blonde, whatever that was. But anyway, okay, so Bumblebee makes it down to Earth because that's again the safe haven. They want to be able to rebuild, I guess, the Autobot resistance, if you will.
Yes, exactly.
Gotcha. And where do you think the story went from there, John?
From there, he lands on Earth. Some shit happens. A nice little battle scene. I'll talk a little bit more about it in spoilers, I think.
Sure, yeah.
Just get into detail there, but it's a nice little battle scene. I actually liked it.
CGI is really great in this movie.
It's super good.
They did a
I
great
love
job.
how they toned down the action compared to the Michael Bay movies.
Yes.
Which right there in that second fight scene, you can definitely see
it feels a lot more personal because of that. It's not just Shia LaBeouf running around screaming like a fucking maniac while robots punch each other in the background. Like,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is okay. I laughed.
Yeah, it was fun. It was good times, but
it gets
got
old after
boring
like
really
7
quick.
movies.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's a fair call. And
Yeah.
that was a really fun fight scene, especially because that was back when Bumblebee was still a warrior. And the reason I say still is we'll get into that a little later.
Yeah, so then that happens, and then you find out some people follow him. Some Decepticons, and what ends up? They knock his ass out, right?
Well, yeah. To give a little detail, there's a fight scene where there's a Decepticon that follows him. I may get the name wrong for those of you who may know. If you guys on the couch don't,
I
wanted to say Sidewinder, but I'm probably terribly wrong about that.
It's definitely not Sidewinder.
Okay,
I'm not big on
right.
Transformers.
He was a jet, not a helicopter, correct? Because I thought Sidewinder was a helicopter, if I'm not mistaken.
There was a helicopter.
You know what? Maybe I thought Sidewinder was an Autobot.
Oh, really?
You know what? I don't. I shouldn't talk because I really never followed this.
At PG Java, guys.
For you who's listening who does know the Decepticon that fight Bumblebee on Earth, or the first one to fight Bumblebee on Earth, let us know at PG Java. Let him know.
I feel like my phone's going off. And the episode hasn't even released.
Right? Give us all the hate and let us know. But anyway, yeah. So there was that
say
cool
us.
fight.
It's
But
me.
but
you know, you'll tell us about it later. As long as you're the one that gets the main hate, though, you can take it. You can take it.
I'm the punching bag.
Exactly. No,
You're our Bumblebee. You can save us.
There you go. Well, anyway, so yeah, in that fight with the Decepticon actually is able to rip out like the voice unit within Bumblebee. I forget exactly what it's called, but essentially it's voice module, if you will. And then from there, Bumblebee is able to recover. He rips out a missile from the Decepticon, shoves it in its face, and then it explodes. Bumblebee makes it out safely. However, the U.S. Army or Armed Forces is around while this happens, and while Bumblebee is trying to warn them, Bumblebee is still like an I guess a UFO, if you will. You know, it's still an alien of this world. And so the armed forces, led by John Cena, of all people, is trying to figure out what the heck is going on. Bumblebee tries to tell them to get away. Bumblebee makes it out. But in the end, he has no voice. And he ends up passing out, essentially, right?
Yes,
like his memory core is shutting down. And I guess he's pretty much just out of gas, you could say. He pretty much dies.
Yeah, he becomes incapacitated.
Like
he
dormant,
shuts
if you will.
down. Yeah, and then he kind of just reverts back to a car form, and that's where he stays.
Yes,
for a while.
One main point of that I mentioned, I kind of breezed over real quick, was that as he's passing out, because he's exhausted and like blown apart from the fight he was in, is that in his, I guess, central HUD, you could say, or his visual HUD, it is saying that his memory core is shutting down, and then later on you figure out how that is actually going to affect him as a character and his development in this movie. And so then from there, he passes out, goes into car form, as you said, Peter. Yeah. And what happens from there, would you say?
After he goes into car form, I think we jump to the girl story.
Yeah, we're introduced to
Haley Steinfeld.
Yes.
Yes. Her character, which is Charlie Watson. Yes. I had to look that up on IMDb, thank goodness.
I remembered the name Charlie, but that's about it. Okay, so yeah, so we're introduced to her. She's a teenage. I had a hard time figuring out how old she was in the beginning until they flat out said it later on.
Super young, but I can't tell.
Yeah, because I got the idea she was supposed to be a teenager, but then she had a job. So then I was like, "What is she? Why isn't she in school? Why is she working? Is it maybe it's summertime? Just a summer job? I don't know."
Right.
We later learned that she's 18, but I had a hard. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
No, you're right, yeah.
So we're introduced to her. She's kind of a tough, rugged girl. She likes fixing cars. Apparently that's you have to be a girl who likes fixing cars in Transformers movies if you're gonna be a lead in the Transformers movies.
I guess so. Yeah, Megan Fox is the same way.
Yeah,
she knew more about cars than Shia LaBeouf's character.
I don't know about the Marky Mark ones, because those ones were probably it doesn't matter. Why are we talking about this anyway? We're introduced to her. She's a tough girl, and she's a bit troubled. She apparently her actual father's not in her life anymore, and she is having a hard time dealing with it. We don't know why right away, but he's just not around. Her mother's dating some new guy, and she's not happy. She's not ready to move on. She comes across the shell of Bumblebee's incapacitated body in the form of a bug.
Yes, yeah,
a Volkswagen Beetle.
Yeah, from like 88 or
87.
87.
I just want to bring up, I thought it was kind of corny how it had the beehive on it with the bee.
Yeah, cute little nod. Guess who this is?
Nod and a wink.
Right, as if we didn't already know who it was. Yeah, true. But I mean, I guess, and she didn't even like I guess reference the fact that there were bees in the car at all. Or anything
no, she just quickly saw it, and then she got in the car, then the bees kind of started to attack her, I guess, a bit.
They started to fuck with her
Just
a little
real
bit.
quick. Yeah, it was not a big deal. It was on.
And then what happened to the bees?
I guess you got them out, but it didn't show. I have no idea. They got cooked within the radiator.
Yeah.
Fuck them all. Who cares? This is why we have a bee problem now.
PG Chava.
Yeah, exactly.
Save the bees.
That's actually a really big problem. There should be more awareness about it. Save the bees.
Yes, please save the bees. They're a vital part of our ecosystem. But anyway,
They protect us from the Decepticons.
yeah, you can't get more vital to our ecosystem than that.
Exactly.
But she comes across Bumblebee's shell. She takes it home, or she repairs it, and then she takes it home, and that's when it's revealed to her that he's actually an Autobot.
Yes. Which was pretty cool, actually. It was a fun little feature, and you realize that for some reason or another, obviously he doesn't have his voice anymore because, again, his voice module was ripped out. But on top of that, he's kind of like cowering in a corner of the garage once he comes to life and everything again, which was kind of crazy to see.
It was something I wasn't expecting, but it does make sense because his memory is completely gone.
Yes.
He has no idea who he is or where he is.
I totally
Yes.
felt like it was a pet dog.
Yeah,
kind of.
That's
definitely the way I felt.
That's the way I felt about this whole movie. It's like a boy and his dog, or if you will, a girl and her dog kind of film, you know? It was like she trained him how to become, I guess, just a good person, really, which I thought was really, really cool.
A good robot
person. It kind of makes you kind of fall in love with the characters a little bit and kind of connect with their dynamic between each other. They actually really start falling in love with each other. Not in a romantic way, obviously, but just more like they really care about each other. Like a girl and her dog would, you know?
Yeah.
Very much so.
So the first thing I thought when Bumblebee first transformed was, how fucking tall are these people's house? Because he's able to stand up straight and not even touch the ceiling.
To be fair, he's not one of the bigger Autobots, but still, you are right.
He's at least 12 feet.
Tall.
12 to 15. Yeah.
Something like that.
And he's able to stand up straight with no problem. And I'm just like, how... This house is not that big.
Their living room was pretty tall as well, because I think he was standing up straight for a little bit of that also. There's a point where he gets into the house.
He seems smaller in this movie compared to the previous.
I feel like
they might have done that.
I feel I don't know. It's been a while since I've seen the previous ones, but I feel like he was always smaller compared to the other Autobots.
He is normally smaller than compared to some of them. Maybe not the what are the little mini ones called? I forget.
I don't fucking
that
know.
connect to their shoulders and all that.
About,
I forget. Again, if you know, let us know.
Is
At
it the
STGeekPod. GoBots, thank you. Yes, I think.
I nailed it!
I believe that's what they're called, yes. Again, if we're wrong, let us know at STGeekPod and also at PG Chava. For those of you who don't know, that's our co-host.
You know what? If
Peter.
I'm right, also add me at PG Chava.
Yeah, let him know.
Let's get some positivity in my fucking at.
For once. God damn. That's real. Okay, so...
Yeah, that was real. That was...
yeah. That's the first time we've ever suggested, or you have suggested positivity toward your own tag.
I am not for it. I am against it.
Right? Bring the hate. Goddamn. Fire and brimstone. So yes, so that is the case. As we mentioned, you know, also as is shown within the trailers, you know, it does show Haley Steinfeld's character, Charlie, bring up Bumblebee, teach him the ins and outs. You know, obviously that he can't be an Autobot all the time. He has to be in car form in order to disguise himself. And just to be able to move around in the world, because, like she mentions to Bumblebee, that if people were to catch him, obviously there would be experiments done on him and terrible things would happen. And then the Decepticons, 2 of them that came from outer space, ended up landing on Earth. They were able to find a Bumblebee, or a symbol that Bumblebee was giving out involuntarily. Because remember, like, one of the radio waves from Bumblebee ends up escaping, and then they actually hear it.
That's right.
Yes. They are able to receive a signal, which then causes 2 Decepticons to crash to Earth to go find him. Because then they're able to figure out, these are where the Autobots are actually going to regroup and then bring on the Resistance once they're able to recover. Correct?
Yeah. There's one thing I want to bring up before we go too long further, because we're probably going to get to spoilers pretty soon.
Okay.
John Cena is actually pretty good in this movie.
Yeah.
He's actually a pretty good actor in general. Like,
you guys ever seen him in Cock Blockers?
We did.
We watched that for a little bit, actually. Remember we watched that together at Evo Weekend.
Oh, crap.
Yeah, you rented that.
I was a little
I think most of you guys
intoxicated.
fell asleep. I was the only one that ended up finishing it.
It was a great movie.
But he was great.
Yeah.
He was great in it. He's really good with comedy roles. But in this there was no comedy to his role.
A little more stoic, yeah.
But he was still really good in it. A lot of the times I found him being the voice of reason. Like some people he was always just like, what the fuck are you guys doing? These are robots. They're aliens. Why are we working with them? Like, what's wrong with y'all?
To give a little more insight as to what Peter's talking about.
Is that going to be in spoilers though?
you guys want to move into it, or do you guys want to hold off a little bit? I do agree, though. Yeah, you're right. John Cena's character is definitely the voice of reason in the sense that why are we trusting beings that we don't even know, and we don't know what their motives are?
Before we get into spoilers,
Sure.
I do want to say that
Please.
I think we talked about it briefly already, but the special effects are really, really good.
Yeah.
They're absolutely incredible.
Great.
And the fight scenes themselves are great because it's not just robots punching each other. It's actually there's some bits where there's actually there's
real fighting moves.
like martial arts is
I was
actually
gonna
being
say
implemented.
he's a grappler. It
Yeah.
looked like
Bumblebee is awesome at fighting in this movie.
Yeah.
It's really cool to see, like, especially once his mask comes down and he realizes his true power, like what he's capable of. It's pretty intense from there.
Yeah,
It's
so
really, really cool.
that's really good.
I'm glad you brought that up, Peter, because I couldn't tell. Like, I haven't looked it up yet, but I want to say this is probably performance capture for these characters.
I was thinking the same thing.
Because I don't know how they can ever design movement like that. Yeah. And a lot of the fighting moves were super brutal in this movie as well. Like, there are some mean punches being thrown and knees to the head and shit like that. It's pretty intense. But
It's
yeah,
also
good
worth
point.
speaking of the special effects. It's also worth mentioning, in case you guys didn't know, that the character designs for the Autobots are cartoon accurate. They're accurate
Yes.
from the
More
original
akin to
80s
the
cartoon,
80s designs.
and they look great.
Yes.
Yeah.
They look really good.
It goes to show that you don't have to look like the way that they were originally designed for them to look good in such high definition. You know what I mean? Like, they were able to pull off the 80s look, but still bring it to a new age era at the same time without making them look too different.
and they brought back the noise.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was pretty off.
I noticed that a couple times. Sorry. But the thing. They lost the spring on that one. But yeah. But no, yeah, I totally agree, Peter. Was there anything else you wanted to bring up before we move into spoilers?
I think that was about it for me.
Okay. John, how would you like to start off spoilers?
Badass robots
Badass
fighting each other.
robots.
I feel like
Please.
I just need to bring this up. I feel like Bumblebee took damage really easily.
Well, he is smaller, like we mentioned,
Yeah, he's small. He, like, every person he fights against is bigger than him.
by
Yeah.
a pretty big gap too.
Yeah, even
Right.
I mean, even looking at Optimus Prime next to him was like, holy crap, dude! You're like to his chest or torso. It was kind of crazy to see. But yeah, like the two Decepticons.
It was
that
like
came to
Kevin
Earth,
Hart standing next to Shaq. Yeah, straight up.
or let alone Dwayne Johnson in that Moon movie they starred in together. What was that even?
I don't
called?
know.
You
I
guys
never
remember?
saw it.
No.
It was okay.
It was alright.
It was I don't even remember the name. So there you go. But yeah, I will say in their defense, he does take a lot of damage in this movie. But I mean, he is the only one versus
But
multiple people at
even
once,
against
usually.
like a good example is
Sure.
in the second fight scene when he actually sees John Cena.
Yes.
And he's fighting against the military. He's getting his ass kicked against the military, and for the most part, they're just shooting bullets at him. And then like a car takes him down pretty easily too. I was like, oh man.
Well, I could be wrong, but could that not be because he didn't have his memory back yet, or did he have his
No,
memory
this
back
was
at that point?
This is before he lost
This
his
is
memory.
right when he crashes into Earth and he runs into the army.
Oh, you're right.
like the army they're fucking his ass up.
But I mean, he wasn't fighting back. He's not here to hurt
I
anybody.
did, yes, I will agree with that. He was not fighting back.
And yeah, he wasn't fighting back, but also he was able to take pretty good damage. I thought, at least.
I mean, he didn't die, I guess.
To give a reference
that's what you
to
mean.
how strong the metal is, or whatever alloy they're made of, from the Allspark, that is that there's like a huge artillery, I guess like machine gun on top of this Humvee, and it's blasting at his back, and he was just able to move around and maneuver just fine while getting shot.
That's
by
a pretty
something
good
like
point.
That. And like one also another thing is that there's a part after that where John Cena like pulls out this gigantic handgun and is like, "I'm ready to go," or he says some cheesy action line. Nothing against John Cena; he's a great, funny guy and all, and he's a cool actor and all. But he says this whole thing and he grabs a gun to look really cool. But it's like this robot just took gigantic artillery fire with bullets way bigger than that pistol can shoot. What is that gun gonna do for you? Like, I guess it was a cool shot, but
It's John Cena.
ultimately,
What can't he do?
I guess, right? He could probably punch harder than
If
guns
he
can
wanted
shoot,
to,
right?
yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Every time he came on screen, I just wanted to shout, "John Cena!"
You should have.
He said it quietly to me like 5 times.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, you heard
That's
that?
it,
I
yeah.
thought I was trying to say it to myself.
No, your body went right towards me. You were either gonna grab some popcorn or say John Cena, and I didn't have popcorn, guys.
At least he wasn't grabbing for something else, but I guess that's another time.
Yes.
That's another conversation.
I think I'll timecode that in case that was too loud and you have to like edit it down.
I appreciate that, just in case. Maybe compensate for a few seconds, but anyway.
Yeah.
All right, so we're in spoilers now, correct?
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
All right,
yeah,
we are in
so
spoilers. Peter, you want to take it from here?
What else? Okay, so the Decepticons that come to track Bumblebee,
Yes.
they trick the U.S. military or armed forces. I don't think they actually say what branch of the government they are.
Armed forces. Sure. Military.
They trick them into believing that Bumblebee is actually a fugitive from Cybertron, and
Yes.
that their only reason for being there is to track him down and bring him to back to their planet.
Yep.
So they end up actually teaming up with the U.S. military. The U.S. military gives them access to all of their satellites.
they make the interweb.
And they make the
Nod
interweb.
and wink, guys.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah,
so.
you're
No,
right.
he literally
he literally
said.
Hey, they made the interweb. Something like that,
He
or
said
what?
they're connecting all the data from all across the
yeah.
world. They're making the
yeah. He says they're
like some kind of interweb.
So
he
thanks
says,
to
yeah.
thanks to Decepticons, we now have the
Yes.
internet that we know today.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
All
Okay,
hail
cool.
the Decepticons.
Oh, yeah, right. We should
Oh,
be
yeah.
praising them if anything. You're right. All right, and and again, this is what we're talking about, or that Peter mentioned earlier, as far as John Cena being the voice of reason, because again, the only reason, or I feel like the biggest reason why we even allowed the Decepticons to deceive us is that there is a scientist within the military that's around the whole time, and he's so fascinated by interstellar beings that he wants to bring them in and have them share their intelligence, and we'll share our intelligence with them as well, to make it one kind of kumbaya state of mind, and we can learn from each other, so to speak,
he actually,
while also serving justice.
He gets the on their side by ignorance, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Something we
Well,
did
he's
not
so
bring.
fascinated by
Something
them.
we didn't bring up was this movie takes off in the 80s.
Yes, 87.
So he brings up about the Cold War.
Yes.
And he said,
Yeah.
if we don't do it first, they're gonna go to
the
the
Russians,
Russians,
and
yes.
we're gonna lose the Cold War
So-
because everybody was paranoid about that shit back
Yep.
then.
Yep. That was an interesting thought, but at the same time, again, this scientist guy was like totally, I guess, infatuated with the sense of these higher beings coming to Earth.
I would be.
And so he was willing to do whatever he wanted to share intelligence with them. However, John Cena, as Peter mentioned earlier, was saying, like, we don't even know who they are or what their true motives are. Why should we even give them this kind of access? And so while the military says we'll give them limited access, they were able to pretty much look at whatever the fuck they wanted. Let's
Yeah.
be real. Like, they looked at whatever they wanted.
Whatever they want.
Yeah. So it was kind of interesting to see that was the case. But again, it kind of made me appreciate, like, that was the voice of reason for sure. Like, the whole time I was like, yeah, listen to this guy. He knows what he's talking about. Why are we letting them see everything, essentially, that we're capable of? So then, okay, moving on then. So shit happens from there. Like what?
Bumblebee ends up giving away his location by sticking his finger into an electrical outlet.
Yeah, that's right.
And
Yes.
they're able to recognize his energy signature, the Decepticons that is, because they're connected to everything. And so they find out where he is. They go hunt him down. They take him captive. They try to torture him to find out where Optimus Prime is. And excuse me.
During the torture,
Yeah.
a hologram message goes off that Bumblebee had
From Optimus Prime.
from Optimus Prime, informing the listener that was going to be their new base, that they were the Autobots were all going to regroup on Earth.
Yes.
So at that point, they presumably what appears to be a death blow to Bumblebee. They just shoot him flat out right there.
Yeah.
And then they go to a nearby radio tower to broadcast to the other Decepticons that this is where the Autobots are going to be and to bring in the reinforcements.
Yep. That way they can destroy them once and for all.
I'm gonna
So
just
any
take it.
resistance that could
I'm gonna
be.
take it back a step.
Yeah, please.
Sure.
They blow up the scientist who
Oh, yeah.
wanted to turn him into
Destroy
water.
that guy.
The way they blow him up is really cool.
It was pretty violent. In a way. I
We
was
saw
like,
it a bit
"Oh."
earlier in the movie, but it's really cool. They basically just turn a
him
human
into
body
water.
into water.
Yeah, it was
They
pretty
explode
crazy
into
thing.
just a...
Looked like a booger.
And,
mucus or something like
before
that.
the scientist dies, he warns John Cena. He gets on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was able to let
He's
him
like,
know.
"Shit's going down,
I
Harry!"
was wrong.
Boom,
Right.
water everywhere.
Yep.
Pretty much, yeah. He was like a giant bubble.
I would have loved to hear a sound bite edited in there, just like a little boop.
I love that one of the
you go.
Decepticons actually say he popped.
Yeah.
I like the way these humans pop.
Yeah.
I think is what he said.
Yes, yes. It's so terrible. But yeah. So then that does happen. We don't. Yeah, I was gonna say we don't really get any. I guess Autobot resistance from them other than Bumblebee. It is about Bumblebee.
I
after
loved
all.
it because this was more story driven.
Yes.
With like 4 action scenes.
A lot more heartfelt for sure too.
Yeah, and it just shows you only need 3 robots in the long run instead of like fucking 70 of them shooting each other.
I did very much that the scale was actually very much toned down. It, again, like I said earlier, it was a lot more personal. We follow the story of Charlie, the female protagonist, a lot more than any of the Autobot stuff. We actually follow her journey through this whole thing. And what the things that she's struggling with more so than the actual Autobot Decepticon problem.
And honestly, it made me care about what was going on a whole lot more. Like, I didn't need huge explosions. That's all fun and all, and they do have that. There are great action scenes, as we talked about earlier in this show, in this episode. But they do it, and they do it sparingly, and that make it really count when it does happen. And so, yeah, overall, I just think this is a much more heartfelt experience. And it made me just care about everything that was happening to every character. Like, I felt for Bumblebee, who's a damn robot with feelings. I felt for Haley Steinfeld's character, Charlie, and all of her family that had all their own quirks and, I guess, issues going on as well.
Yeah, so Haley Steinfeld's character, it's revealed after some time getting to know Bumblebee and kind of like, I guess raising him as the little puppy that he sort of is.
Yeah, to her.
She reveals to Bumblebee that her father actually died of a heart attack and that she's been struggling with it ever since. And so Bumblebee's kind of like something of a coping mechanism for her. Like her father was into cars and he's what got her into fixing cars. And so just having this car/robot friend is kind of her way of moving past that.
Yeah, good observation. I agree. Yeah, she was actually able to just have a friend because she didn't really show her having any friends at all. Like, everyone kind of teased her that she went to school with and stuff like that.
There's even a point where the stepdad sort of takes a blow at her for that. Yeah, his intentions are good. He gives her a book that basically says smile more. And then he talks to her about how, like, you'll make more friends and you'll be a happier person and you'll see that the people around you are happier because you're happy. And she's just looking at him like, you're a fucking asshole.
Like, you don't even get me. And
then the mom, she gave her a fucking helmet and said, "This might not be law, but this is our law." Bitch, I'm 18.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's okay. I mean, she was a cool mom. She cared and everything like that. But yeah, she does have a little bit of like oppression to her, I guess. But that's something we probably all felt at 18, I would say. At least me personally. But I think we all kind of go through that rebellious stage as well. Oh, and the champagne is being passed, referenced earlier. So yeah, so from there we do have Bumblebee that was tortured. He's pretty much killed to what we know. And then Haley Steinfeld and her, I guess, co-protagonist, this guy that kind of flirts with her throughout the movie. He's a pretty fun guy. His name is Memo, I do believe.
Yes.
They go and find Bumblebee. They figure out where he's at in this military base, and they're trying to revive him by shocking him with these guns that they have that kind of, what's the word? Incapacitate Autobots.
Yeah, they were used earlier to take Bumblebee down and bring him in. Mm-hmm. And I got to say, that scene was actually pretty emotional. It was kind of hard to watch.
It was hard to watch, yeah.
Because it's just her, like, he's lying there motionless, completely dead, and she's trying to revive him by basically
shocking him.
Like a defibrillator. There we go. I was trying to think of the word. Yes.
I was stuttering. I couldn't get it out. Thank you. Yeah, like a defibrillator.
Exactly. And she tries several times, and he's non-responsive, and she eventually just kind of gives up. And it's actually really sad. For a moment, I legit thought, like, are they going to leave him dead?
Right.
Are they, like, how is he going to come back?
Are the reinforcements supposed to come and make this ending better?
I was expecting at some point that we were going to get more Autobots to come help him out.
Right.
But it never happened. Eventually, like, after she gives up, she kind of starts to weep and, like, and mourn her loss. But then in the background, you see Bumblebee actually does
You see those cold blue eyes.
Yep.
I actually thought they were kind of kind. They're so round and bright and everything like that, but yeah.
And again, he's a puppy.
Yeah.
He's basically.
And then when he gets pissed off, you know he's pissed off. That one scene where his eyes
which is
turn
right
red,
after this. So yeah, Bumblebee is revived. He gets up and everything like that. He's okay. He shakes it off, luckily. But then the military comes and they still think he's a threat. Because all that John Cena's character heard was that from that scientist that got blown up was that these Transformers are bad, essentially. You know, they're plotting against us all along, to paraphrase.
And they're going to destroy the Earth or something like that. Because I believe they say that, and a scientist overhears it, that they're just going to wreck the entire Earth.
Exactly so. And so the military just sees a Transformer, and so they try to fight the hell out of Bumblebee. Bumblebee's distracted, and John Cena obtains Charlie, Haley Steinfeld's character, but then like she's resisting him and then is able to get like a lucky jab to his gut, and then John Cena gets pissed off by that, throws her to the ground just because he's pissed. He just reacted kind of violently. Bumblebee sees that, and his eyes for the first time become like deep red and completely pissed off. And you kind of get like Iron Giant feel from it in a way. Like all of a sudden he just goes all out, and the artillery fire goes crazy. And then from there, kind of wild.
Yeah, he was kind of scary in that moment, honestly.
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
Even Charlie, she sees that. Like Bumblebee stands up straight and he has glowing red eyes, and immediately she kind of takes a step back. She's like, "Oh fuck, something's wrong."
Right, clearly, and he goes all out in a rampage, and it takes her to kind of calm him down eventually. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken.
Sun's getting real low.
And then from there, the other two Decepticons are able to pinpoint where they're at the radio tower. So then Bumblebee goes, and a great fighting scene comes from that, with him taking on both of them with some help from Charlie.
Yeah, well, he does. He takes them both on, but one at a time.
Yes,
I feel like together he would have gotten his ass kicked.
He already kind of got his ass kicked through those two fights. Yes, but it was just really cool to see him kind of outsmart them. Each, I guess, in a way. Like, he was able to kind of trick one of them by blowing him up with some chains that wrapped around his inner core, and he just rips it.
You think this is gonna?
It blows up. Cool. Is able to also cause like a giant tsunami, if you will, from breaking open a dam, which then crushes the Autobot, causing it to get rushed by water, and then smashed and blown up against a ship as well. That happened to get pulled in from the dam. It was all kind of crazy, really.
This is one of the things that immediately after that, this bothered me a little bit, because there's so the girl, we earlier on, it's revealed to us that she's actually like a really good diver. She was like she has gold medals for diving, and then there's a part in the middle of the movie where she sort of gets peer pressured into doing a dive, but she backs out because the last time she dove was in front of her father, who is now dead. So it kind of just brings up bad memories. She couldn't follow through with it, so this moment, after the water washes away, kills the bad guy, and submerges Bumblebee, she has to make that choice to dive in and save him, which she does. But then, what the fuck did she do? She just swam up to him.
Did he need to be saved? I'm sure he would have just got up.
She just swam up to him, touched his chest, and then he's like, "Okay, I guess I'll live now." And then they both swam up.
Yeah, that was a little weird. But yeah, I mean, it was nice that she came for him. You know, she overcame her fears and her demons within herself.
Yeah, I get that it was there to complete her arc.
Full circle.
Yeah, but it didn't.
Was it necessary?
You said that out loud when she did it. You were like, full circle. John and I saw Bumblebee together. So
it was full circle.
No, it was a little.
You saw it coming.
Again, could she have pulled him up herself? Obviously not. So what could she have done?
The power of will.
Maybe she's trying to be there in his final.
It is the 80s. It was the power of love.
There you go. Exactly.
Back to the Future.
Unless you were a Russian.
Right. So, just to jump ahead a little bit, there are, we're kind of running long. We still have Aquaman to cover as well. So we will get into just saying that, like, okay, yeah, happy ending and all. It's great. Bumblebee survives, but then they have to kind of go their separate ways. Haley Steinfeld's character, Charlie, realizes that, she has her own people she has to take care of, aka her family and herself, really. She's still kind of recovering from her father, but she's a much better person now in a much better place. And she realizes also that Bumblebee obviously has a greater purpose and mission in life, which is to defend not only Earth, but his family, which are the Autobots, and the universe, really. Yeah. And so that is the case. And then for the end credits scene, it does show Bumblebee meet up with Optimus Prime and the rest of the Autobots, which is really exciting as well. Well, not really the rest of the Autobots. You do see them crashing down to Earth, and that they're all actually going to start up a base on Earth, and maybe part 2 will come, hopefully so.
So I was talking to John about this, because it was, after seeing the movie, well, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. Sure. So, from what I understood, this movie was supposed to be a prequel, and there's bits of it being a prequel. Like, it definitely fits in, or most of it fits into the narrative of the previous movies, in that he loses his voice, and he talks through the radio. He learns to do that throughout this movie. Charlie kind of teaches him to do that, sort of. But that scene in particular, when he meets up with Optimus Prime and all the other ones come down, that straight out retcons what happened in the first movie. So that essentially makes this movie a hard reboot.
A whole new reboot. That's what I took this as to be. Yeah.
Which I'm fine with, because this is hands down the best Transformers movie there is. Not that the other ones were. It didn't have a lot to live up to.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's not just because the other ones were crap. It's legitimately a good movie.
A great movie. Yeah, I agree totally. Yeah.
A lot of the comedy lands too. We didn't talk too much about the comedy.
It's a funny movie. It's very fun.
It's definitely kid friendly. It's PG-13. There was a kid that sat behind John and I. I don't know if it bothered you as much as it bothered me, but he kept making comments and like
it was annoying.
It was annoying as all fucking hell.
Oh my god, that kid was driving me.
This is why I don't like movie theaters.
This is why I don't like kids.
I also don't like kids, but I especially don't like movie theaters because of this.
Because you have to deal with that. Yeah.
Sure.
I kept like giving the side eye, like turning him like, shut
and it doesn't.
Kid. It doesn't do anything. And then whoever the fuck the parent wasn't saying shit.
Didn't give a fuck.
It was pissing me off.
That is pretty messed up. Who knows? Maybe the kid
control your kids, people.
Yeah, something like that, please.
You don't need to smack them.
All of us.
Just be like, hey, just a quiet shh. Yeah,
that's it.
That's
honey.
Something like that.
Don't let them fucking keep on talking, because then I'm gonna get up and
for all
tell
of
them
us, exactly. Goddamn. So overall, then, what would you guys rate this? I should say, skip, rent, buy.
Well,
it's very.
I wouldn't buy it, but I'd say buy it if you like Transformers.
Fair rating.
I'd agree with that. It's a very good movie. You would enjoy it.
A lot of heart,
without a doubt.
Comedy, a lot of good action, a lot of good special effects.
I think a movie
it ticks every box for me.
I think a movie's great if it's a breeze. You sit down and then before you know it, it's over, and that's the way the movie felt.
It didn't drag or anything like that at all. It was just bam, bam, bam. We're done. That was actually a really good experience. I personally, I dig what you're saying, John, in the sense that overall, if you're a huge Transformers fan, go out and buy it. You're going to be very happy with it, I think. I personally think I'll buy this one. I think it's a Blu-ray keeper. What about you, Peter?
I think it's a highly recommended rent.
Okay,
but like John said,
don't miss it.
Exactly. You definitely see it. It's very enjoyable, and especially if you didn't like the other Transformers movies. This one's just not ignore like that. Yeah, ignore all of those. They didn't happen.
Right. I mean, they happen, sadly.
And if you like the other Transformers movies, you're wrong, and this one's better.
You'll like this one also, so to speak. So okay, cool. Well, that about does it for Bumblebee. If there's any last things you want to add later on, that's fine. But we are now going to get into Aquaman. This is another movie we need to talk about for sure. Peter, what was the movie about?
Okay, so
Peter came professionally, guys. He has a notebook.
Yep, I actually did some work for this.
He's making me look bad.
That was the plan, really. That's the only reason I did this. Okay, so it's the not-so-specific past. The Queen of Atlantis flees the kingdom and ends up washing ashore near a lighthouse. The lighthouse keeper finds and cares for her wounds, and they fall in love, have a child, Aquaman.
Great.
She has to return to protect her family from harm, where she was then sacrificed, but not before she bared a child for the king that she was actually fleeing from.
Yes.
So she has to return. The king there, she bears a child for him, and then she is then sacrificed to the trench, I believe, is what they refer to. That's all they tell you at that point on.
Yeah.
We flash forward to modern day. The child has grown. The child that she bared for the king has grown up and become the king himself, and is hell-bent on waging war on the surface world. So after Aquaman's father is nearly killed, Aquaman is then convinced by Mira, a fellow Atlantean, to travel to Atlantis and take his place as the rightful king to prevent the surface world from being harmed.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed.
And then insanity ensues from there.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah. Overall, I thought this movie was pretty fun. We'll get into more of the specifics now, I think. Totally cool. I thought it was pretty cool anyway. It was a fun little origin to the character. At least they kind of breezed through the origin somewhat quickly. And then you kind of learn about... Okay, I mean, you realize that this movie is definitely part of the DCEU for sure. Like, they reference what happened in Justice League and all that.
Yes, they do.
Briefly, though. It's like 10 seconds.
Which was fine. I'm happy
she says
it got to be its own story.
You battled Steppenwolf, I think is what...
Yeah, exactly. They do bring him up, and that, he was victorious in that. Not that he really did much against Steppenwolf until Superman came along and saved the day.
And then there are certain scenes where you'll see newspaper clippings, and they talk about Superman, but I think they say like an alien from the sky or some shit like that.
Yeah.
So it happened. Mm-hmm. It's pretty cool.
It's all connected and all, but loosely, I guess.
Sadly, it's connected.
I suppose so. So we know some other critics in the room that would probably think differently, but that's all right.
Yeah.
They're not
He's
part of this
silence.
Oh, now they're up. Okay.
They're struggling against their chains right now, trying to get a word out.
May I please have some champagne? I didn't insult the movie you love. Okay.
So the opening scene when we're giving the backstory of Atlanta, the Queen of Atlantis it's really damn. AJ got right now.
I got. Go ahead.
There's actually okay. Well, first off, I didn't realize it until later on.
You're a bastard, Glenn.
But Nicole Kidman and the father of Aquaman, they looked really weird, and I couldn't figure out why until later. And that's when I realized that they were de-aged.
I personally thought they looked okay. They did an okay job. Maybe not Marvel good, but still pretty good.
I had this very same conversation with Glenn earlier, actually, and I think the reason. Okay, so Nicole Kidman's de-aging, I think, was handled pretty good. It wasn't as notable.
Because she's still super pretty, I guess.
Yeah.
That might be
too
it.
Much for her.
And then the father was the one that felt a little odd.
Yeah, I could agree with
and
that.
I think the reason being, and this goes back to the Marvel thing, with a lot of the de-aging that Marvel does, it's always with actors that have actually been around for decades. So they actually have a lot of footage of them.
Reference.
Yes, as a reference point. Whereas, and the same thing goes with Nicole Kidman.
Yeah,
whereas the
course.
father, maybe he's in more things than I realize. I only know him as he's Jango Fett in the Star Wars prequels.
Yes.
And that's about it. So I feel like maybe that's why his de-aging looked a bit off.
Sure, didn't have as much to work with from the past.
Yes.
I mean, he could probably give them pictures, but if there's not a lot of footage, what could they really work with?
Exactly.
I felt very awkward about it,
Oh, really?
especially in the scenes where it's just a weird thing I noticed, but his ears. They
really?
Yeah, they looked really off. And this was the first time I had watched it in the Dolby Cinema, the AMC Prime.
Oh, you went to go? You experienced Dolby Cinema?
I went to go watch it, so I couldn't tell if it was the quality of the picture or if because he was de-aged. So for like 5 minutes, I sat there. I was like, wait, is he de-aged? Is it the quality? Is that dog real? I didn't know what was going on anymore. But yeah, he was de-aged.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yes.
Yeah. Are you done with that? Because I was going to move into something else. Okay.
Move.
So that first fight scene with Atlanta,
Yeah.
immediately
Awesome.
I was like, this is fucking incredible.
Yes.
Nicole Kidman's character, Atlanta, was awesome.
That was one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
Oh, for sure.
With the exception of the de-aging that we kind of just shit on a second ago, the visuals are incredible.
Yes.
And the choreography and cinematography is just as incredible because that fight scene alone, the way the camera follows the action and the way that Atlanta's like twirling in the air, sometimes doing like spins and kicks, like it is great.
Yeah. She's not just a queen, like she earned her title as a ruler. For sure. She's really, really awesome. And again, the reason why she's having to fight these people and defend herself is that she's being summoned back to Atlantis, whether she wants to or not, to be able to bear the child of the king.
Yes.
Yeah. And yeah, her resistance is amazing. It's super fun. Super well choreographed, I gotta say, and well shot.
She kicked their asses.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, they stood no chance. It was awesome. It wasn't until she realized, like, yeah, if I don't go back, then obviously her son and her husband are both going to get killed. So in order to avoid all that, she decides to just go with it and goes back to Atlantis, whether she wants to or not. Yes. So that is the case. And Peter, where do we go to from there?
So we're introduced to Aquaman as an adult, as we know him now. We flash forward to modern day. It's post Justice League, as they reference it a little bit, and we're actually introduced to Aquaman in the same way that at the same time that we're introduced to the character that will become Black Manta. That shouldn't be a spoiler. It's in the trailers. You should know that. Who's actually really cool. I really like the way they handled Black Manta's motivations. Like you really feel it.
I felt like it was very superhero-esque.
How so?
I don't want to ruin it, so maybe we'll talk about it in spoilers.
Okay.
It's like why he took the mantle of being this bad guy.
Okay.
I felt like it was very superhero-esque.
Okay.
Sure. But I think the actor who I'm not very familiar with, I thought he did a very good job. You feel the emotion that behind everything that he does, especially after his introduction. So I just thought he was great. Aquaman, in that scene when he's again, this is in the trailers, he raids a submarine, which is where Black Manta is,
because he knows that they're being held captive.
Yes,
the submarine is being, I guess, overrun, you could say.
Yeah, it's being overrun by pirates, which is what Black Manta is. He's like the leader of like submarine pirates, I guess. I didn't even know that was a thing. But fuck it. We got alien people. We got Aquaman. Why the fuck not? We got submarine pirates. Yeah. So Aquaman. It's something I couldn't stop laughing at in this scene. Not that it wasn't cool, because it was. Again, the action was done very well. But they kept having like swooning shots, like shots that were very specific made for people that go, ooh,
Make sure
Jason
his abs are
Momoa.
perfectly lit
Yeah,
everything.
and like he walks
His
through
pectorals are
through steam, and he like makes smirks at the camera, like it's
He
very
was
much
smoldering the whole entire
Yeah.
time.
Peter wrote all of these notes down, by the way.
Yeah.
I have time codes for them if you guys. Yeah,
Yes.
For sure.
It's
nice.
Momoa. That's why I watched
The
it.
Momoa factor.
Yeah.
It was
I
strong
need
in
me
this
some
movie.
Momoa.
Yeah, Momoa.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. Okay. So yeah, and again, like you said, that was a really cool scene of him taking back the submarine and freeing the people that were a part of it as well, the army that was in there. That was really cool to see that he was able to. I mean, they obviously stood no chance. He has beyond superhuman strength, and not even the original Black Man was able to have anything against him in that fight. So where do we go from there, Peter?
Well, after that, Aquaman reunites with his father. They go out to have a drink.
You can tell that they're close.
You can tell they're very close. I actually like their relationship very well. You can definitely feel how much they care for one another.
Mm-hmm.
It's revealed to us that Aquaman resents Atlantis because because they killed his mother after she had returned. So they're at a bar, and I gotta say, I didn't think I would like this Samoan biker / surfer bro vibe that they were going for with Aquaman.
Yeah.
But it actually works
killed
pretty
it.
well.
Yeah, he
it
killed
actually
it.
lands a lot.
He was a
More
fun
so than in
character.
Justice League. I think the reason it didn't work in Justice League is because he was so different from the rest of the characters.
Sure. Which made him stand out, but at the same time, we didn't get to know him in Justice League very much.
Right.
If anything, I would have preferred
This
Aquaman come out
first,
and then Justice
yeah.
League.
I would
but
agree,
For whatever
100%.
reason, they chose to do whatever they did, and for better or for worse, it is what
For
it is.
worse.
They're fixing things up. They've made some
They're
mistakes in
working
the
on it.
past.
They're putting some oil in it in the machine. They're working it.
It's getting there.
It's not BVS.
We got Shazam coming.
Looks good.
Things are happening. We got Wonder Woman 2 in the pipeline.
Oh, yeah.
It's happening. Birds of Prey.
Also taking place
Joker.
in the 80s. The 80s
But,
are
well,
still
Joker's
a thing.
kind of way beyond anything. But still,
The 80s are still making a comeback. It's been a thing for the past few years, and
Yeah.
it's still going strong.
I didn't even mention the 80s, how 80s Bumblebee was for
Mostly
that
with the
matter.
music,
The music was like 80s hit, 80s
Well, the
hit,
cars.
80s hit.
I suppose. I mean, it does take place in the 80s,
Yeah.
so
I mean,
of
it
course.
was a fun factor in Bumblebee. But
definitely-
anyway, let's move it back to Aquaman, though. So, yes.
Momoa, yeah.
Yeah,
Momoa.
Samoan Momoa. So
He's
yeah,
Hawaiian, actually.
is he?
I would just
Whatever.
say that I want Samoa of Samoa. Momoa.
Samoa
You okay?
Momoa.
No, I'm not okay.
Momoa
Go on.
Samoa?
Let's get that. Let's get that
Yeah,
trending
he's
on.
from Honolulu, actually.
Really?
Yeah, do you know he's 39 years old? He looks younger than that, I thought.
He's 39? Oh my god, guys, I'm out of shape.
Yeah. We knew that already.
If you ever want to feel bad about your current age and realize an actor is older than you, but in much greater shape,
I still got time.
you still got time. There you go.
You can look like that when you're
You
39.
got like 9 years to catch up.
Yeah,
you got
yeah,
this.
yeah. Okay.
You got this.
Let's do it.
You already got the beard thing kind of going on, or you
Exactly.
did at one
All
All
point.
right. And I got the hair.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right.
Cut me.
We're gonna get some Samoan Momoa.
Mission Momoa happening now.
Momoa Samoa.
Momoa me. Hashtag Momoa me. For John. All right, moving
All right,
on.
let's do this.
Moving on. So,
More bad hashtags.
so I think in this scene in particular, I think it's a good time to bring up the comedy. I think the comedy actually lands very well for the most part.
yeah.
For the most part, there are moments where it gets really, it just falls flat for me
There's
entirely.
one that's stuck in my mind, but you guys.
There's
go
a few that stick in my mind, which I'll bring up later. But yeah, for the most part, it lands very well. Aquaman's a very kind of chill dude, I guess. Like he's just kind of like having fun with everything that he does.
Super lighthearted, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is pretty much how Jason Momoa is in every interview.
From
I've
what I
seen him.
understand, yeah, that's
He
what he
was
looks like.
himself.
Yeah, pretty much. He just played himself.
Yeah.
And it worked in
Which is
every
really better.
aspect.
Yeah.
I remember when he got cast as Aquaman, I thought that it was kind of a waste because I thought he would have made a better Lobo.
Yeah,
If he was going to
agreed.
be in the DCEU, because I know that there were rumors that a Lobo movie may or may not have been made. But I gotta say, he really kills it as Aquaman.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
He made him cool.
Yeah.
He did make him
Yeah.
cool. Like back in the day, Aquaman was kind of a joke. To be
Not
honest
kind of.
with
He
you.
was a joke.
Like, sorry if you who are listening happen to be a big Aquaman fan, an old school one at that. But I mean, there's a reason why a lot of people kind of think of he's a laughable character. You know,
Yeah.
He was a joke in Entourage. He's a joke now until Jason Momoa, really. So yeah.
And he's an absolute badass.
Yeah, no, for sure. Super charismatic character. Like, they picked the right actor for the job, for sure. He made him fun.
Yep.
And it obviously doesn't take itself too seriously. Like, I mean, this movie has serious tones to it, for the better. But when it is funny, it's fun. You know, it's cool.
Yep.
So then where do we go to from here?
So after this, we're introduced to... I forget what his name was. I've just been calling him Ocean Master.
Patrick Wilson is the character, but his character was Ocean Master.
Yes. So we're introduced to him, and we learn that he wants to wage war on the surface world, as I mentioned earlier. But in order to do this, he actually has to unite the 7 kingdoms of the 7 seas, and so that's his whole. That's his goal, so that he can again wage war on the surface world. He has a meeting with somebody. He's the king of Atlantis. Should probably mention that. I think I did. Who cares? I'm mentioning it now.
He's the heir to the throne of Atlantis.
So he's the current king of Atlantis. He's meeting with a king of a different kingdom, which I forget the name of.
He was King Nereus.
King Nereus.
But I remember the name of the kingdom. Yeah,
they threw a lot
There's several kingdoms within under the sea, I guess.
The underwater stuff and the Atlantis stuff felt very Games of Thrones-ish in the sense that you could definitely tell that there's a lot of history between these people.
Yes.
And there's a lot of how do I say this? Tradition and
I guess formalities, would you say?
Yes, exactly.
Sure.
And so
there's respect between them to a degree until this Ocean Master guy kind of starts to maneuver some things.
Yeah, we'll talk about more about that in spoilers. But yes, he definitely seems like he's very by the books, like by tradition and all those things. And so we're introduced to him. They both get attacked by a submarine as they're having this meeting, and that's when the king that he's speaking to is convinced, like, okay, I will join you in your endeavor to attack the surface world.
Yes.
So that's one kingdom that this guy has on his side.
And the reason why he does do that is because there's a submarine that interrupts this huge council that they're having.
Yes.
And randomly at that, like, what the fuck? There's these Atlanteans speaking, and all of a sudden a submarine comes out of nowhere and shoots torpedoes.
There's like 4 different moments in this
random
movie where there's just a random explosion out of nowhere. and it made my girlfriend jump every single time. Like, it just scared the shit out of her. It was hilarious.
She's pretty jumpy. I wish I could have seen it.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Well, as random as this submarine randomly attacking this, I guess, underwater kingdom council, you start to realize later on in the movie why it was so random. You know, it didn't just happen to happen. Like, it wasn't just humans. Oh, they happened upon these underwater
Okay, we'll talk about more of that in spoilers.
I'm just saying it. I just wanted to defend the movie in that right.
Sure.
Least.
Yes. It wasn't as random as it seemed.
Yes.
Okay, so that happens. In retaliation, Ocean Master, whose name I don't remember again.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna be calling him that the whole time.
What was his title?
He sends a giant tidal wave to Earth. That's the tidal wave that almost kills Aquaman's father. And he ends up being saved. Aquaman's father, that is, ends up being saved by Aquaman with the help of Mera.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that's when he decides to listen to Mera. Mera's been trying to convince him. Even in Justice League, they communicate. She's trying to convince him to come back to Atlantis, and so that's when he finally agrees to go with her and see Atlantis for himself.
Yeah, I thought that was actually pretty cool too. Like, once you actually see, I guess, the special effects that went behind Atlantis, it was pretty neat. Like, I don't know, I've always kind of really nerdy of me to admit, but within, like, I guess nerdy stuff like gaming and like just old lore, I'm really kind of like a water archetype guy. So to see stuff like that was really exciting. For those of you that play Yu-Gi-Oh nerds, there's actually
fuck your mermail deck.
Yeah, there's actually an Atlantean race, and then this other race called Mermail, which are like all people that like live under the water and stuff like that. Really cool character designs to a degree, and so that was right up my alley. And this movie reminded me of those cards and the card art so much. It was actually really exciting. 2
out of our 5 listeners, I'm sure, are really enjoying that.
Hey, you know, if you like Yu-Gi-Oh, let Peter know at PG Chalva on Twitter and Instagram. Let him know. Let him feel it. Anyway, moving on.
So he goes with Mera in her ship to go to Atlantis, and that confused me for a second because I'm just like, they can swim. It looks like they can swim faster than these ships.
Yeah.
And so I was like, what? Why?
What's even the point?
I was able to... Okay, the only way it made sense to me was I can only assume that them swimming at, like, super speed is similar to us sprinting.
Sure.
Maybe it's just exhausting, so they just
sense.
preferred, like, it's like to just get in this vehicle instead.
Yeah.
That's the only way it makes sense to me. Maybe in the comic books they explain it. I don't fucking know. Do they even have underwater vehicles in the comics? I don't know.
That's a fair
At Peachy
explanation to
Chava.
me. Yeah. There you go.
Let me know, because I genuinely don't. But anyway, I will say that I really like how they handled scale in this movie, particularly at the entrance of Atlantis. There's like a bridge and and just the arches and the statues are very, very huge. I like the way throughout the movie, but especially in this scene, how they really make you feel how big and how
grandiose, really,
that these set pieces are.
Sure.
And it's great. Again, the visuals are incredible. It's very stylized. It's very colorful, which is something that the DCEU needs, because a lot of their movies, especially the earlier ones, the worst ones, the bad ones,
You mean
the terrible ones.
3?
Wonder Woman's not. It's a little bit more colorful than the rest.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's great. It's better off for it. You don't need to have a gray filter over everything. Zack Snyder. I almost forgot his name for a second. Zack Snyder.
I think a lot of people have at this point. No offense, sir. Oh.
All the offense.
Damn.
Okay, so Mira takes him to meet with, I don't remember his name, Willem Dafoe's character.
Oh, I'll pull it up right now. His character was Nuidus, but they more so called him Volko.
Volko.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I'm going to use, because I'm not going to remember that other
That's
one.
his last name, but I never heard Nuidus once.
No.
But Volko I heard over and over
Okay,
again. Yeah.
Volko, who is actually somebody that Aquaman's familiar with. He's actually something of a surrogate father to him in a certain way. Like he raises Aquaman. He teaches him the Atlantean side of him throughout his life. There's a lot of flashbacks in this movie, even though it takes place mostly in modern day. There's a lot of flashbacks to Aquaman as he was growing up, as he was a kid. And again, Volko's there teaching him about the history of Atlantis, and also teaching him about his abilities, what he's capable of as an Atlantean. So he's very familiar and very close with this person.
Yeah.
And they handled those flashback scenes really well.
Oh yeah, they were great.
They were very smooth. It wasn't dream sequence into
future
future sequence.
Again, the cinematography is incredible in this movie.
Yeah, it was really fun.
It is really good. The way they transition from flashback to modern day, and it is great. James Wan did an incredible job, and he's never done an action movie to my knowledge.
Oh really?
He's mostly doing
Furious.
horror. Oh, that's right. You
Oh,
are
so
like
the
absolutely right.
machismo of action.
You're about to
movies
get a lot of heat
nowadays.
for you.
Right?
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Saved it. God damn. All
Yeah.
right. Which, no, I do agree, though. It was cool to see the Volko kind of training, and he does kind of mention, like, he shows him one maneuver that essentially is like an impenetrable water shield, if you will, by using a staff.
That's a real
Or
martial arts
trident,
move
if
too,
you
by
will.
the way. The way that you move his hands to twirl the staff like that, it
It seemed believable until a certain scene near the end. That got a little intense as far as the hand movement goes, but I don't doubt it did look like it was made of martial arts.
Yeah, that was really cool. But anyway, he meets Mira takes Aquaman to meet with him, and he explains to Aquaman that in order to unite the Seven Kingdoms, he needs to find the trident of what the heck was his name?
Oh, Atlan.
Atlan.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Which is like
It was short for Atlantis,
the
right?
most it may be, but he was like the most renowned ruler of Atlantis ever, something like that.
He was the first king.
The first king of Atlantis.
Yes.
There you go.
There
Okay,
we go,
great.
the very first.
Okay, cool.
Not just Atlanta, just the entire
Ocean, I guess you
Ocean,
could say.
yeah.
Or he's the first ocean master. If
yeah.
you will,
Because after he
perhaps.
fell, I believe is when the kingdom broke up.
Ah, touche.
Yeah.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Cool. All right. Nice.
Nice.
I got Glenn's approval, by the way.
Yes.
I looked at him and he gave me the approval.
He's nodding his head.
The
He
random
can't
one
see us
has
because he's
approval.
blindfolded, but he's nodding his head. He's agreeing with us.
Moving on.
So that's. He also shows Aquaman that they have a device of some sort, or an ancient recording device, which they believe to be will be able to help them find the location of the trident.
Oh, okay, yes, I do remember that.
Immediately after that, they get attacked by soldiers in the Atlantean army, I guess. And Mira and what was his name? Volko. Volko. They have to flee because they can't be seen. They can't be seen there with Aquaman.
Yes.
For reasons that are explained in the next scene, actually. Again, very awesome fight scene. Very good. Like, just, I can't stress enough how good it is. The cinematography and the action and the choreography, it's all great. When Aquaman ends up, like, going one-on-one with, like, the squad leader dude.
Oh, sure.
Like, it is great. And similar to Bumblebee, now that I think about it, there's real martial arts being handled in these action scenes.
It was really
it's
fun
really,
to watch.
especially Jason Momoa. I'm curious. He's always been a big guy, and I know you see like a lot of social media stuff of him getting fit for the role.
Sure.
But I'm very curious if he actually did martial arts training. A lot of his stances and a lot of his movements, some of those are probably stunt doubles as well. But it was very believable.
I wouldn't doubt that they would put him through some sort of training, because just to make the scenes look as believable as they are, it shows that they probably had to put him through something like that. Yeah, a lot of good choreography, of course, as well.
Yeah, so that was great. But he actually ends up losing, and so he gets taken prisoner and then gets brought to Ocean Master, who is his little brother.
Yeah, we find out.
Who is
Ocean Master's plans. That's all right. Move on. It zoomed in a little much. Don't worry about that. It's okay. So yes, he's brought to Ocean Master because he has to be able to prove himself, I guess you could say. And anyway, just to jump ahead, he does have to go on like a one-on-one match to prove that he is worthy of having the throne over Ocean Master, because apparently a lot of people believe that the Ocean Master, his younger brother, is just a giant asshole.
So Ocean Master's name is apparently King Orm.
Well, yeah, I wasn't gonna correct you, Peter.
That's
but
all right. Go ahead.
He wouldn't become Ocean Master until he ruled the Seven
I
Kingdoms.
did know that, but I just couldn't for the life of me remember his name. So
you went with the easy, the cop out.
No,
exactly.
that's all right. It's all right. It's what it says on Google anyway.
Okay,
Not a big
so
deal.
King Orm, yeah, it's not until he reunites the seven kingdoms of the ocean that he would become the Ocean Master.
Yes.
Until they agree that
In the comic books, he's Ocean Master. So that's just what I've been calling him.
Sure.
King Orm. So don't at me for that one. You can at me for all the rest of the show. I don't give a shit.
Go on.
So King Orm, the actor that plays him, I think did a great job of portraying him.
Yeah.
You feel a lot of the rage that he feels towards the surface world, and especially in the follow-up scene that we're talking about, he's very charismatic, and he's very like he knows. He's very royal and regal, but also kind of menacing. Like, he plays to the crowd, he plays to his people.
Yes.
Like, it's
Similar to Grindelwald in a way, I guess you
similar.
could say.
Yeah.
Charismatic in front of people he needs to be in front of, but then ultimately they don't know his plot. His
Yeah.
true motive, I guess you could say.
I think they're pretty clear on his motive of of attacking the surface world.
Oh no, that's true. I mean, he's able to convince all the other kingdoms that that's what he wants to do, and that he needs their backup.
Yeah.
He doesn't convince them. He wrecks them.
That's true by force. That is true.
Yeah.
Well, except for the
Except-
first.
We'll get more to that
Yeah.
in the spoilers.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, he's actually, I loved him in this role. He was very good.
Yeah. Sure.
I agree.
So after a back and forth between them, Aquaman is brought before the King Orm, who is his little brother, half brother at that, and we learned that, I think this is when we learned, maybe they mentioned it earlier, but Volko is actually the king's advisor, and that Mira is also there, presumably his advisor as well.
Yes.
It may or may not be revealed later on that there's more to that.
Sure.
But where was I going with this?
You have to fight eventually.
Yes, and so Aquaman basically challenges the king and says, "Hey, like I challenge you for the throne."
Yeah.
And King Orm accepts the challenge.
Sure.
So he's being challenged to the throne in a formal battle, and so they get taken to what they call, I think it was called the Ring of Fire.
Ring of Fire,
Yeah.
just like Finding Nemo, if you will. I kept saying
The Ring of Fire.
Yeah, exactly. That one out the movie the whole time. I was thinking that the entire
I kept
time
thinking of the
that
Johnny
movie.
Cash song. I didn't even think about Finding Nemo.
Oh, really? I
Yeah.
just figured it's under the water, like Finding Nemo and Ring of Fire and all that. And it's like a testing ground or coming of age kind of thing that you have to do to
Yeah.
become a ruler. It was too many parallels for me. That's all.
It's
And
underwater.
not to mention, Willem Dafoe was part of both movies as
Oh, yeah,
well,
I forgot about
to
that.
think about that. Yeah, so it was kind of silly to me. One thing I did like about that part of the movie was that King Orm, his trident was his father's, which he had never seen a loss.
Oh, yeah.
Which that was really cool. It's always been victorious in the hands of who's been wielding it. But I forget who or what trident the Aquaman was wielding. But
His mother's.
His mother's,
okay,
yeah.
yes.
The Queen's.
They went through so much trouble to get it, and then it ended up not being worthy of the battle. and ultimately Aquaman gets his ass kicked in this fight. Like, he puts up a good fight, and King Orm is ultimately like he has a challenge against him, but King Orm's trident, his father's trident, wins, and it destroys the other one.
So I was very curious about how they were going to handle underwater action scenes in this movie, and it was at this point that I realized they might as well just be flying.
And they
I was going to wait until spoilers, but this is more proof that Dragon Ball Z can
That's exactly what I actually have in my notes.
Done right. I was wondering why you had DBZ in parentheses.
I didn't even notice that, I thought that. I was like, wait, you just changed the water to sky? We're watching
and it's Dragon Ball Z, 100%.
Nice.
Yes.
I'll take that. I didn't even think of that parallel. You're right. Oh my god. That's pretty cool. All right. So then, you guys, are you okay to get into spoilers now a little bit? I see that you have tone shift highlighted.
I'll get to that.
Please, let's move this along.
Put that in.
Real quick before we get into spoilers.
Okay.
There's a moment right before they actually go into the Ring of Fire to battle that Aquaman talks to King Orm and says something pretty heartfelt. He's like, there was a time where I was actually very excited to meet my little brother.
Yeah.
And
yada yada yada, and now he's a dick.
And now he's a dick. But I thought I like that Aquaman wasn't so one-dimensional.
Yeah, he actually has feelings, you know what I mean? Like, not only was he sad and depressed that he never got to really know his mom very long at all, he's only known his dad, his family, and also he realized he had a younger brother and he wanted to be able to get to know him, Yeah. It actually brought some heart to the character a little bit, rather than just being, ooh-ah, the whole time.
Without a doubt.
For sure.
Okay, so spoilers?
Spoilers, let's do it.
Okay, spoilers. So, right after this, okay, thanks, God, I forgot to write these down. Aquaman loses this fight. His mother's trident gets destroyed, and Mera, who was also revealed in a previous scene to be the queen of Atlantis, she's actually the future queen. She's betrothed.
She's a princess of one of the other kingdoms.
Is she? What?
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Yes, you're right. And
Daughter
she's supposed to marry King Orm and become the queen of Atlantis. Again, very Kings of Throne-ish, like building these relationships. Yes, exactly. But it's not overwhelming.
No.
And maybe in that first scene when King Orm meets with Drogo, what's his name? What's that king?
King Nereus.
There we go. But anyway, okay, so they escape, and correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I missed something here. How did Mera know where to go? How did she know to go to the Sahara? Because in the previous scene they talked about they had no idea.
Didn't they have that device that led them there?
That's what I mean. They had this recording that
because the clue said where, and because I believe Momoa says it himself.
Okay.
Where it says where the desert or where the water dried. I believe like it was a desert.
Because it used to be one of the kingdoms, right?
Yeah, but they knew where to go.
Once upon a time, it was a dried.
I must have missed that part.
It was a dried up kingdom, essentially. And it was one of the clues you said, though. All right, well, moving on. Okay, eventually they get there. I mean, if we're talking about that, I thought the appearance of Mera within the whole movie was kind of random to begin with, really. Like, she kind of just appeared in the beginning of the movie, which I thought was kind of weird.
She was already a part of the BVS. Yeah. Or no, I'm sorry, Justice League.
Justice League,
so it's not super random if you saw the movie.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, that's a fair point, actually. I forgot she was even in that movie, to be honest with you. All right, so then, they go to fetch the trident or whatever at that point.
Okay, so at this point, the movie changes to an Uncharted movie.
I guess
it turns to a Nathan, like Aquaman becomes Nathan Drake, and Mera becomes. Even the music changed. It became kind of like bouncy and cartoony. Like it got really weird for me at this point.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of
swashbuckling adventure.
Yeah,
because I felt like she had her own style of music. It was very Tron-esque. Like it was very
kind of, yeah.
And then his was not. It was like more rock.
Okay,
you can say. I wasn't a fan of that.
They had their own themes, I guess.
And then, we're at the part now where they. Oh no! First they go to the desert.
Yep.
And then they find another map, correct? Or.
So to further compare this to Dragon Ball Z, she has a Dragon Ball tracker basically.
Oh my god!
That's how they used to find the temple. Yeah. So that's.
I guess you could say that's true.
It's the closest thing to a Dragon Ball Z live action movie we got, and it's good.
Right. So then they get another clue that leads them to Italy at that point, right? Which is when they end up running into Black Mana.
When I felt... Well, before that, I felt like it was so unnecessary. I felt like I was watching a Disney movie.
Sure.
Was that little love scene that was going on where she ate that flower and he ate it.
It felt very much like...
That was like, you can develop a relationship just by...
I think it was... There was some of that, but I feel like a lot more of it had to do with getting Mera to like the surface world.
Sure.
There was some of that in those scenes as well. Like, you're not wrong. There was some a weird, like, Beauty and the Beast type of romance thing going on between them.
Yeah, it was all right. But I could have maybe appreciated a little more dialogue between them rather than just random little silly scenes that I feel like were unnecessary.
Playing. It's like, swoon. We get it. She's pretty. He's hot. We get it.
Right. So can we jump ahead a little bit? Because again, I was kind of talking about Black Manta. Again, I don't want this to run too long.
It's only an hour 20.
Oh my God, is that all?
Yeah.
Okay.
Black Manta comes.
Okay, yeah.
So Black Manta comes. Before we get into it,
sure.
Well, we should go back. So it turns out that my voice cracked there.
That's all right. He's really excited about this scene, guys.
Yep. It's revealed to us that King Orm actually had partnered with Black Manta and orchestrated the attack on the meeting that he was having with the other king.
Okay.
Essentially,
which is why the submarine was there and blew up, the council to begin with.
Yes, and so. Oh, we didn't even talk about this part. So now that we're in spoilers. So earlier in the movie, when Aquaman rescues the submarine and Black Manta is there, he's actually there with his father. And Black Manta and his father go at it, as well as Black Manta himself. And Aquaman ends up defeating both of them. It ends pretty easily for the most part, except for the part where he gets a grenade launcher blasted into his chest.
Fair enough.
But his Black Manta's father ends up getting pinned by what looks like a missile of some sort, and the submarine is flooding. And Aquaman's about to leave them for dead, and Black Manta tries to stop him and be like, "You need to help him, help my father." And Aquaman just like, "You got yourselves into this, I'm leaving." So he essentially leaves them both to die.
Yeah.
And Black Manta is forced to leave by his father. He doesn't want to leave his father behind. He's refusing, but his father basically forces his hand by having a grenade. Yeah. Very Terminator 2-esque.
Actually, good. Yeah.
Yeah, and so he reluctantly leaves, but he's again. This goes back to what I said earlier about him. The character being the actor that is, being very good at portraying the emotion. You can tell he's he's struggling with this very hard, leaving his father behind.
Oh, yeah.
And he takes it very, very strongly. Yes, without a doubt.
I just felt like that part was kind of superhero-esque. The whole, you make me proud. This was your father, my father's knife. Now I'm gonna pass it on to you. Like that all happened in that.
But I like how they did that with the villain, not the hero. Yeah, they didn't really use that trope with the hero.
And it gave good motivation for him to hate.
It feels like it feels like it's been done.
I mean, it has, but again, I just felt it because the actor was so good at portraying
I thought the actor was great. I thought him mourning over his father's death was amazing. I think you didn't need to have that scene, and it still would have fit perfect.
Sure, but I very much enjoyed it.
Okay. I guess it just gave more camera time, and you realizing that this is a father and son, and they care about each other.
You know what? I would even disagree with that. I feel like you needed this scene in order to have to feel Black Manta's hatred for Aquaman.
Yeah, he's got to have a motive in order to be a villain.
He didn't save his father.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. He left him for dead, essentially. I mean, they were bad people. Obviously, why should he even care to save them? Which is why he didn't to begin with.
He tells him that.
He's still upset.
He said, "You're a pirate. You chose this life."
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yar.
The sea can save you now, or he said something
like that. Yeah.
So going back to him, in the desert.
So he gets. So Black Manta gets Atlantean technology from King Orm. Yes. And he modifies it somehow because apparently he's an expert in Atlantean technology. Apparently, there's a pretty cool like Iron Man like suit building scene kind of a thing going on.
He essentially builds the Black Manta suit, but then this is the comedy that didn't land quite for me. It was a small little bit, but when he's building the suit and all, and he puts the helmet together, the original helmet, which is a little smaller, and I guess like the eye lasers blast, and it almost like shoots his head off, and he just says, "I'm gonna need a bigger helmet." That was
fine for me. I don't know.
What was it?
There was the peeing on the earlier in this.
Said something so much better than just, what does a bigger helmet have to do with it? Like,
I don't know.
I feel like would that solve the problem?
I think that was the studio's way of just introducing, because Black Manta's helmet in the comic books looks very ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
He looks like Hey Arnold, like he's got the football-shaped helmet.
Okay.
And so I feel like that was just the studio's excuse of giving an explanation as to why it needed to be so weird looking.
Big.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough, I guess.
So it didn't bother me too much.
Okay, I'll give you that.
But anyway, the action sequence
when Black Manta catches
up with him with a squad of Atlantean soldiers with him.
Very fun.
Fucking great. Again, action. So good in this movie.
Yep.
So good. You actually see a lot of it in that extended trailer I mentioned several episodes back. But,
Still
God,
great.
it's
It was a
still
surprise
good.
for me, so I'm happy for that at least.
Yeah, it was without a doubt incredible. But anyway, since we're running low on time, we won't talk too much about that. So after this, there's a few clues that they follow, and they have a heading to go to the trench. That's the next area that this trail is leading them to. And so they go there, and this is where I felt James Wan really, like, his horror background really came through. Because
you start to learn what their trench is.
Yeah.
Because it's referenced multiple times in the movie, and you're like, oh, the trench, his mom was sacrificed to the trench. What is the trench?
yeah, you don't really know what that means.
And then you learn.
Yeah, and then there's these like fish creatures that are just absolutely vicious. They're hostile, and they're almost akin to giant piranhas. It looks like they're just they will eat you without a second thought. And so they take a boat there because Aquaman is injured in the fight with Black Manta.
They're in a fishing boat.
Yes.
And actually, before that, if I may reference really quickly, so refer back to the past. In that fight against Black Manta, he's actually like tossed off a cliff, smashes his head in multiple times against these beached rocks, and essentially just almost drowns. He's left for dead once again, and ultimately defeated in this scene.
Yeah.
Before
Presumably he dies.
Yeah.
Or maybe he doesn't.
And then Aquaman is on the way with Mera to this next kingdom, which is the trench. One thing I did like about this is this, I don't know if dichotomy is the difference, but just the stark difference between what the trench are compared to all the other kingdoms within the ocean, because they're all kind of regal in their own way. They have a level of sophistication. They're not beasts necessarily, but like you mentioned, Peter, these are just living, walking piranhas that are just completely vicious and quite horrific.
They mention it briefly in the movie somewhere. There's a line that says something that like that some after the kingdoms of Atlantis split up, that some people went off and did this, some people went off and did that, and they say something along the lines others reverted. Yeah.
Yes.
So you kind of get a tease to it, but then
More
you see it.
state.
Yes, exactly. And then it's freaking. They're pretty horrifying, and the scene is done very well. It's like there's a horror scene in this without a doubt.
Slightly, yeah. And like the music and just the sheer cinematography. Eventually, they have to flee the boat that they're on, and then eventually dive into what is known as the Kingdom of the Trench.
They discover that these creatures are afraid of light because they're just so used to darkness. They're from the deep, and so they take a flare with them, and then they dive underwater.
Can flares go underwater?
I was wondering that too because I had no fucking idea.
Some are meant to do that, yeah.
Oh,
okay.
Okay,
because
again, if you're out there and you're shipwrecked, you need to be able to get help.
Okay.
And if it's raining terribly or waves, anyway.
Okay, makes sense. But yeah, that was done very well. And then you definitely feel worried for these characters. I think even with the flare, like just the amount of these creatures that is shown.
It's thousands. It's go ahead, continue.
Well, yeah, it's literally thousands, and the way you see a bit of this in the trailer, how they dive down with the light, and you just see a bunch of them like kind of circling around them,
It was
and it gets even worse
creepy.
as they go deeper.
Oh yeah, deeper and deeper, the more trouble they get into. It kind of reminded me of the first Lord of the Rings film, Fellowship of the Ring, when they're in the Mines of Moria. And all of a sudden, near the end, all those orcs and goblins are crawling from the ceilings and the walls. And they're just completely outnumbered, and there's absolutely no hope whatsoever. It was pretty akin to that for me, personally.
Yeah, that's a pretty good comparison.
Sure.
But anyway, they end up fighting their way through it, or more so just running through it, actually. And then they reach a giant, like, whirlpool underwater, and they reluctantly jump through because they really have no choice. They're surrounded.
It's either that or die.
Yes, exactly. And then they end up in the center of the earth somehow, like in an air pocket in the center of the earth, which whatever comic book movies makes sense.
Dinosaurs.
There was dinosaurs. There was flying dinosaurs.
Tarzan.
Yeah, there were pterodactyls and
you
stuff.
You ever see the Tarzan cartoon?
Yes.
Show where there was like that secret underground place that turned into like a dinosaur.
I don't know if I remember that, to be honest with you.
I'm old.
Damn, no,
that's what it reminded me of.
About that. It reminded me of How to Train Your Dragon 2, if I'm not mistaken.
Never saw any of those.
Okay, there's a part in the second one where they find like this hidden like Kingdom of Dragons. Anyway, moving on. So they jump through that. Mera and Aquaman end up getting separated. Mera gets rescued by a humanoid person, presumably, and kind of looks like the trench a little bit. At least
kind of looks like,
yeah.
And so, this person takes Mera ashore, and Aquaman catches up, And that's when it's revealed to us that it's his mother, and she's actually alive, and that she's actually been surviving for 20 years in this little air pocket, which I didn't see coming at all. I don't know if this is maybe in the comic books or something, but that could legitimately took me by surprise.
I thought that was actually pretty cool. I was excited to see her again. I knew it was her the moment like the camera didn't go up to who it was. I was like, I
figured it out at that point, yes. Yeah. But like I'm just saying, leading up to this, I didn't expect to see her again.
Yeah, I thought she was gone. I thought it was weird that it was too bad that we didn't get to see what happened to her, but just by being explained. But then it was a nice surprise to see, oh no, she actually survived and she was fine, so to speak. But it was cool that she mentioned like she's tried to escape this realm that she's in multiple times, but the only way to do so is that there is this pathway, this cave, if you will, that leads to the trident of
Atlan?
Atlan, thank you, yes. And that's the only way that you can possibly have a chance of being able to be Ocean Master, I guess, is if you possess this trident. And the thing is, she's tried to, but there's a beast within this cave.
Yes, well, the thing is, if you have this trident, then you prove yourself to be the true heir to Atlantis or something like that. Mm-hmm. So you don't need it to become the Ocean Master, but
fair enough.
It kind of gives you claim to the throne, I guess.
Like a little more leeway, I guess, if you will. But to put it lightly.
It's like a bargaining chip, I guess. I don't know.
Right? Well, but I've got the magic fork, though.
Yeah, pretty much.
But
whatever. Again, they're all about tradition and stuff. So, like, everybody in the ocean knows about at this point, we should mention that, or we should have mentioned this a while ago, actually, that the trident's existence itself is even a legend. Yes. So to bring that to claim something like that, something of legend, was definitely a very good bargaining chip.
Right. She said that there's been multiple warriors that have tried to claim this trident, but none have survived. And then you quickly learn why, because again, she's mentioned that she's tried multiple times. She's not worthy and capable of getting it. And so it's Aquaman's time to shine and actually do something. And so he goes into this cave, and immediately he's kind of overpowered and he can't handle what's in there. Giant claws and tentacles are swiping at him from the deep and dark, and you can't tell exactly what it is that's attacking him. All of that you know is that it is absolutely gigantic, but he's able to speak with it and actually converse with it, which is something that the creature is surprised by, because no other person that has gone in there, aside from Atlan, was able to actually communicate with it, which shows his worthiness, I would say.
So this goes back to the scale and how this movie uses it very well, because you feel, even though you don't see the entirety of this creature, you just see its tentacles, you feel just how huge this thing is.
And even more scale revealed later on too. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, but I gotta say, I was confused as to this Guardian's purpose after she reveals to him, like, only, like, you have to, Trident has to deem you worthy himself in order to actually take the Trident out of his corpse.
That's true.
So I was like, what was the point of the Guardian if that was the ultimate deciding factor?
She's just an ultimate cock block, I guess.
Pretty much,
You can't even get close to the Trident, even if you are worthy, I guess.
That was weird. It was still cool, but I found that very strange.
I guess added worthiness to it. She kind of reminded me of like Shalab the spider from The Hobbit and stuff like that, or Lord of the Rings as well. Anyway, more geeky lore. But ultimately he proves that he is worthy because he's able to communicate with this beast. She realizes it's a she. You can tell by it's like a feminine voice to her. Says that essentially alludes to him being worthy. He's able to grasp the trident, take it from King Triton, or not King Triton. The fuck was his name? Atlan? Thinking of mermaid. It doesn't help with that. Mira looks like Ariel the whole entire time.
There were some moments where the part where she eats the rose, I was just like, this is very like a Dingle Hopper, Little Mermaid type moment.
Good reference. Yeah. I was ready for a Little Mermaid reference the entire movie, but they didn't take low hanging.
They made a Pinocchio reference.
Yeah, they did. Okay, that was that one. Fair enough.
Disney exists in the DCEU apparently.
Yeah, it's a thing. And so that must mean that Marvel does as well somewhere in there. At least Marvel movies, for that matter.
Confirmed. Aquaman confirms it.
So anyway, Aquaman proves his worthiness. It jumps to a scene where the gentleman trying to claim the title as Ocean Master, what's his name? King Orm?
King Orm. We should probably mention that while they're going on this uncharted adventure to find the trident, that he is actually going around to the different kingdoms, making alliances, and in some way, in some instances, just forcing their hand.
By force, and which is what we jump into near the end of this movie, where he's fighting, he's like talking to these, not even talking to them, I'm sorry, he's waging a war against these like crustacean crab.
I want to say it was called Kingdom of the Brine?
Something like that. That would make sense.
But crab people.
I'm going to say with crab people.
It's crab people. the pinchers, if
Crab.
you will.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was actually, that was
Crab.
like one of my favorite scenes of the entire movie.
Yeah.
Like, the way that they waged war against one another, like the crab people, if you will, the Kingdom of the Brine, had like these gigantic creatures like crabs and lobster-like crustaceans shooting cannons and catapults and such against the higher technology, if you will, that Atlantis had at their disposal, along with the other kingdoms that they took over.
Yeah.
It was just like a scene, like you've said, Peter, multiple times, and you, John, as well. The scale of this movie throughout these different scenes is unfathomable until you actually get to see it. And I wish I would have seen it in a bigger theater, really, just because, yeah, the sound effects were awesome, the cinematography was amazing, and then all of a sudden you see the beast that was attacking Aquaman while he was trying to get the Triton burst out of the underneath the ocean floor, and then is like pretty much Cthulhu, if you will.
Yeah. We should mention that Aquaman does get the Trident. I mean, I feel
Yeah,
like
he
that was
did,
implied,
right? No,
Yeah.
but I don't think we said it.
AJ said it.
Oh, he did? Okay, never
proved
mind.
his worthiness, and
Okay.
he was able to get the Triton
Gotcha.
from whatever, King Atlan. And then, yeah, then that's when you see really the sheer scale of what this movie is capable of, because that thing is bigger than anything
Huge,
you've
yeah.
ever seen within the entire movie. It's bigger than any warship by 10 times the size. It's able to take all sorts of artillery fire. You do see that it gets injured a little bit, and I was actually worried about it
Yeah.
for a moment. But
then,
ultimately, that thing was
yeah.
a wrecking machine. Like, it was overwhelmingly powerful.
And
compared
again,
to
I
anything in
love
its
how
path.
they handled the scale. You
Yes.
really feel just how huge this thing
He's a
is.
speck compared to her. Like, it's really
Yeah.
awesome. Like, she's got like these gigantic like crab hammer type claws, but then gigantic tentacles as well. It's amazing to see.
So I don't know if this
what
is
this
a
thing
creature
looks
from the
like.
comic books or anything, because they actually reference this creature earlier in the movie. There's,
Yes.
I think it's when we're still in the beginning. Actually, Queen Atlanta is actually telling the story of this creature to her
forgot
son
about
as a
that.
toddler.
Yes,
So maybe that's from the comic books. I don't know.
played by Julie
I-
Andrews actually as well.
Wait, what?
Oh, I'm sorry. The voice of the creature. That's all.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's
Classic
cool.
British actress. Yeah.
I no. Okay, cool. That's awesome.
Princess Diaries. Go on. I'm sorry. Peter.
And Mary Poppins.
And
Yeah,
oh
you
my
didn't-
God, you're absolutely right.
You didn't know that?
I forgot that. My mom told me that when I was a little kid. So
Surprised
yeah.
that wasn't your first one. You went with Princess Diaries.
Hey man, still
Not, it's a good movie, but like, but I'm
Huge
just
fans of
surprised.
Princess
as well.
Diaries on STGeek Pod.
I love it. It's great.
Moving on.
Anyway,
The war wages. It's pretty awesome. Aquaman makes this heroic return, and ultimately has to challenge his brother once again.
but this time he does it on the surface. They do it on the an emerged submarine type ship that they have.
Yeah, an Atlantean submarine, if you will.
Yes.
Or to them, airplane. I don't know.
Again, this action sequences are fucking incredible.
It was a fun fight scene. For
Yes.
Sure.
And so Aquaman is equipped with Atlan's trident, and they basically have a rematch of their previous fight. But now that they're not underwater, Aquaman is a bit more comfortable.
Yes.
He's more familiar with being able to fight outside of water.
I have to interrupt real quick.
Sure.
I like that the way the Vizier, Volker, whatever his name was, I forget, Volko. He was pretty much telling him, like, you had to fight him in his element, make the bastard fight in yours, so to speak, to paraphrase. Yeah. And that's the whole reason as to why they fight in the surface.
Speaking of Volko, how...
Go ahead.
Okay, so King Orm brings up that he knew that Volko was actually helping Aquaman the entire time.
Yes, he does
essentially
get exposed.
betray him,
Yeah.
and that he knew that he's been helping him since he was a kid. So why the fuck didn't he do anything about it until now? Did I miss something? Is this another thing that I just kind of slept on?
Because you never really find out when he knew or when he figured it out, right? It never shows.
They don't tell you anything. It's just all of a sudden
it's
he
just
knows.
like, oh, but I've known all along.
Yeah.
Or whatever. But it's like, but how did you know and when did you find out? Because that is kind of a plot hole. I mean, it's fine, like, if he knew. But yeah, why would he wait till then?
He didn't really add anything
when
to the
Aquaman
story
could
that he
actually
found
defend
out.
himself? Why would you do that? Why not go to the surface and whack him as a kid,
Yeah.
Or whatever, or when he's younger, when he doesn't have as much power.
Yeah, I didn't get
knows,
it,
yeah.
but whatever. It is what it is. Yeah. Movie's still great.
Ultimately, fun fight scene for sure.
Yeah, incredible fight scene. So, earlier in the movie, we forgot to mention that after Aquaman and Black Manta fight, and then Black Manta is ultimately defeated, Aquaman and Mera are talking, and Aquaman says that he knew Black Manta before he was Black Manta. He recalls that what happened on the submarine and how he probably should have handled it. He realizes that he should have handled it differently.
With his feelings.
Yes, he says that because he left them both to die, he created an enemy that almost killed him and almost hurt Mira as well, whom at this point in the movie he cares very deeply for.
Yeah.
So because of this, as he's about to deliver the killing blow to King Orm, he stops himself. Yeah. He actually spares his life because I guess he doesn't want to create another. He doesn't want to repeat that same mistake.
Yes, yeah. He's human, and the whole time King Orm wants to be killed because he, again, like you mentioned multiple times, the underwater I guess kingdoms, they're very traditional, and so it's only fair that he lost so he gets to be killed. So it just goes to show his Aquaman's humanity, and the whole time they're kind of referencing that Aquaman is the ultimate ruler of the sea because he has a taste of both. You know, he has the power of the sea, but he also has the power of understanding human free will and the right to be free, I guess you could say, and just to have empathy for others. I guess that's how I thought of it.
Yeah, he is the only one of that lineage. He's the only half Atlantean, half human. He's the very first. Mm-hmm. So it's just not something that everybody else is used to dealing with. I guess they're used to their traditions.
Mm-hmm. But again, that's what makes him ultimately worthy, is that he has, I guess, the best of both worlds, you could say.
Yes. Yep. Okay. So his life is spared. This is when Queen Atlanta shows back up. Everybody's shocked, especially King Orm. His mother's alive after all these years. Right. You could definitely feel that he's overwhelmed with emotion. Like, he's just shocked that she's alive. He maybe has some regrets as to the things that he was doing. Yeah. It's never outright said, but it's the impression that I got anyway.
I could agree with that to a level.
But ultimately, he's taken to the dungeons. He is not killed, but he is taken prisoner for the things that he's done.
And I loved what Aquaman said as he's being taken away, is that he's like, when you're ready, let's talk.
Yes.
So, like, he's not ready to just throw away his relationship with his brother and just cast him aside. He wants to be able to have an ally and a friend and a brother, of all things. Yeah. After all this time. So I think that was really cool. That was a really nice touch.
Yep. So the movie ends. Aquaman has saved the day. He becomes the Queen of Atlantis.
The Queen?
Queen, whatever.
Did
I say Queen? King of Atlantis. Whatever. He's got the hair for it.
He's pretty enough for it. Fair enough.
Whatever he wants to be called. King,
right,
Queen.
Exactly. It's 2018.
Yeah.
Almost 2019 as of the airing of this episode. Moving on.
But anyway, he becomes the King of Atlantis, and they all live happily ever after.
Yes. Until post-credits.
Until post-credits, it is revealed that Black Manta is actually alive. Whoa.
Oh, shit.
You never actually see him die. You just see him get the shit beaten out of him by some rocks.
Yeah.
That he falls to his supposed death to. Yeah. But yeah, that was kind of cool. You see that he's kind of floating adrift, and then some ship finds him, right?
I was half expecting for there to be another Unjustice League reference, like maybe like what's his name? The bald dude, the bad guy. What the hell's his name?
Bald dude, bad guy.
Jesse Eisenberg character.
Lex Luthor?
There you go. I don't know why I drew a blank on his name. I was half expecting Lex Luthor to show up and like invite him into their ranks of
that'd be kind of cool. He already recruited Deadpool, didn't? Or not Deadpool. I'm sorry,
Deadpool.
Oh my God, you guys are all over
the more serious Deadpool. Deathstroke. Sorry.
Yeah.
Wasn't that a thing?
Yeah. So, that was a thing.
That would actually be kind of cool. I wouldn't mind there being like a reverse Avengers thing, but instead of heroes being recruited, it's villains.
That's what I thought that they were going to be going for.
Now.
Yeah.
Can we have that? Why didn't we have that?
We sort of have that.
Shazam. Do it. Please. You still listen to STGeekPod, right? Sure.
Okay. Sure, why not? But anyway, Black Manta's alive, and he still hates Aquaman, and so it's a setup for a sequel, which we will this movie did great overseas. I'm sure it's going to do great this weekend.
Oh, yeah. Most definitely.
So we're going to get a sequel.
Yep.
And and also Warner Brothers is not going to stop making these movies anytime soon.
Nor should
especially
they.
Yeah, they're good now so far.
So far. Two
are good.
Two.
I think they've seen the
rest of them
ways.
Are ass.
I
said
they're
it.
not the best. Well, I mean,
Peachy Chava.
Yep.
There you go, for sure.
Ass.
So ultimately, what are you guys rating this one? Skip it, rant, buy.
I'm gonna say rant.
I'm gonna say buy.
Okay.
I love the visuals, love the cinematography, the action, the story, everything about it. It's a buy.
It'll be a fun addition to a collection. I don't know if it'll be a part of my collection yet. I feel like buy is so hard to I guess I guess, suggest nowadays because of streaming services and such. But at the same time, if you're a huge DC fan or an Aquaman fan nowadays anyway, this could be a great part of your collection.
Jump on that bandwagon.
As a Blu-ray or DVD for sure. I want to see this on a huge TV because, again, like we've said multiple times now, the scale of this movie is awesome to see. And to witness for sure. See it in theaters for sure. It is worth the price of admission in my opinion. I'm gonna probably rent it for sure, but probably buy it overall if I take the time to. We'll see. I think it was a fun movie though for sure. Out of the two, what's your guys' pick?
Oh, of the two.
Bumblebee and Aquaman. What would you say wins this weekend?
Aquaman, yeah.
I might go with Bumblebee personally. Not even to play devil's advocate.
More money, or what was the better story?
What was the better movie?
Bumblebee. Overall? I think Bumblebee I liked it a little bit.
I like Bumblebee a little bit more.
Really?
I liked Aquaman, but Bumblebee was more my jam. A little bit more. Just a little bit more. I think I cared about the characters a heck of a lot more. There
wasn't very like cheesy scenes. There were some
jokes
cheesy
landed
scenes and
a little bit more for me.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I think I'd have to go with Bumblebee. That's just me though.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well, all three of us expected very little of Bumblebee.
Yeah, but that's why I'm glad it was such a surprise.
Yeah.
Maybe that's part of it.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be surprised by it.
That little bastard kid wasn't behind us. More.
I'm so sorry.
I should also mention something else funny happened when I went to go see Aquaman with my girlfriend. We went to an AMC, and a lot of their theaters have reclining seats now, and ours were broken.
Oh,
so both of the movies
son of a
I went
bitch.
to go see this weekend, I had issues
experience.
with the theater, but that didn't distract me from how good the movies were.
I had issues with my recliner too, but it wasn't
fucking kid, though.
It wasn't
Goddamn.
technical issues. It was some asshole ignorant lady that didn't notice. Anyway, I'll get into that. Or she pretty much had like gift bags, but in front of the foot of my chair. So I couldn't recline, otherwise I would have knocked her.
You should have. I would have 100%.
Yep.
I probably should have, but I just let it go. I part of me wanted to think like once it turned dark and when the movie started, do it a little bit and see if she catches on, but I let it go. Whatever. My ass fell asleep halfway through, but I was all right. But anyway, that about does it for this episode. Be on the lookout for the next one because we do have some other stuff we're going to talk about. But again, as I mentioned in episode 10, if you happen to be a part of a company affiliated with one that would like to sponsor us, please let us know. You can email us at STGeekPod@gmail.com. Also, if you have topics or questions for future episodes, we will shout you out. Again, email us or find us on Instagram and Twitter at STGeekPod or STGeekPod@gmail.com. That about does it for this episode. Any parting words, you guys?
Love you guys.
And the STGeek is for this week.
Santa touched the geek.
Nice. Very good.
It happened, guys.
Where did the bad man touch you?
I don't want to talk about
You
it.
can't even speak about it. All right, well, that about does it for this one. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great one later.
Peace.
Bye. Check.
Check.
Check your booty.